year, this will be both the start and the finish line right here.
If we move out of the way a little bit, and Christian Schlecht running our camera, you can look down here. This is where the holding area will be. We're actually starting, we're pretty close to where the chute will be. And then if you look way down there, there's kind of a motor home down in that area, and there's areas staked off, and that's where the dog teams will come in tomorrow morning starting at 9 a.m. locally. And they will set up there and make the final adjustments to their sleds, get them packed, get the dogs out, and get them ready to go down the trail. So, Bruce, you've been in this situation the day before the start of a 1,000-mile race, both at the Yukon Quest and the Iditarod. What's it like for a musher? What are we, 18 hours away, 20 hours away from the start?
Yeah, most of them now have picked their 14 they're going to take. You know, that was a decision for a lot of the mushers I've talked to where they still had 16 or 15, which one's going to stay home, which one makes the go. It's kind of a relaxing day in a way because all of the previous musher meetings, the vet checks, all of that's over, and it's really just a day to get prepared, do your final packing, and be ready to go tomorrow. So particularly for this year, without the start downtown in Anchorage, which we're going to see some, the fans will see of last year's in a little bit here, this year it's in a pretty relaxed mode. You and I are staying where Jessie Royer, one of our top competitors, is, and you know, she's got her dogs there just relaxing. Yeah. She did a little training run with them out of here yesterday just to see the first few miles, and she has all day today to just finally get her trail gear all packed and be ready to hit the trail out of here tomorrow morning.
Yeah, our entire crew, the Insider crew, is over at the Dream of Dreams Bed and Breakfast owned by Vern Halter, who's a several-time veteran of the Iditarod Trail sled dog race. We've all been tested many times now for COVID. We will all be wearing masks out on the trail, and so when there are interactions with people outside of our bubble, we, of course, will be protected, and so will they. Well, and I think I did the math wrong. Actually, they'll start to go out at 2 o'clock tomorrow, so we're a little more than 24 hours away from the start of this race. And it's just good to be here, isn't it, Bruce? You know, salute to Rob Urbach and his crew, Mark Nordman and Chaz St. George and everybody there at Iditarod headquarters. They have done so much work and so much planning to both protect people on the trail and also just to make sure that this event continues for a 49th year. You can't say enough about the work that they've done.
No, especially Chaz and Mark Nordman, the race marshal. Tremendous amount of work. And already the volunteers that just volunteered their time, when we came in, they're down there preparing the staging area for the dogs and helping people get in here like us to get parked and laying out this whole thing. I mean, they had heavy equipment in here clearing this whole area for the mushers to bring their trucks in with the dogs. And of course, every year, but especially this year, you can see all this snow. The trail breaker team that go out on snow machines and actually put in the trail, they've been out on the trail for a month already. So tremendous volunteer effort.
So ladies and gentlemen, this is what's going to happen here today at Iditarod.com. There are already some interviews going up, pre-race interviews that we did with 13 different mushers on Friday. We're going to, every hour or two, we'll put a new one up for you. There's about 5 or 6 up there now, including an interview with Ali Zirkle. This, of course, being her final Iditarod. Pete Kaiser, Richie Deal, they're up there as well. We've got interviews coming with Dallas Seavey, Yor Olsum, and many, many more. So be sure to keep it tuned right here to Iditarod.com today. Tonight at 5 o'clock Alaska time, our Champions panel is going to air. It's nearly, actually, it's over a 2-hour production. And I know you're going to love that because Doug Swingley, Jeff King, Martin Boozer, discussing publicly their Iditarod experiences together for the first time that I know of. And, of course, Dallas Seavey is there. Mitch Seavey is there. Those 5 mushers have won 19 Iditarod championships. We talk about everything from genetics to winning to losing. It is a compelling couple of hours of broadcast to watch, though, with 5 Iditarod champions and 19 titles between them. This is what we're going to do right now. We're going to throw it to last year's ceremonial start. That's normally what we're doing on Saturday. We're down in downtown Anchorage with the parade and all of the excitement down there. And, of course, COVID has canceled that this year. But we're going to take you back to Anchorage last year, 2020, to watch the ceremonial start. So we'll do that now. Come on back. Keep it tuned here throughout the day. New interviews tonight at 5 o'clock Alaska time, our champions panel. And, of course, we'll be here tomorrow morning as we prepare for the start of another Iditarod sled dog race. Enjoy the day and enjoy our ceremonial start from 2020.
Welcome to the ceremonial start of Iditarod 2020.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to an absolute glorious morning here in downtown Anchorage. You're on 4th Avenue. It is the first Saturday of the month of March, and it is the start of another Iditarod sled dog race for the 48th consecutive year. We're getting this race underway. Dog teams will be running from Anchorage to Nome. Of course, this is a parade today, a celebration of a lifestyle, and now an event that is 48 years in the making, in the running, and has been going since 1973. I'm Greg Heister, along with Charlie Sakaitis and 7-time Iditarod finisher Bruce Lee and a former champion of the Yukon Quest. Gentlemen, here we are. What a great morning.
And it's
for
snowing.
the mushing event.
It's snowing. That's great for a dog race.
I mean, what else could you want but having the snow coming down, and especially even for the fans, warmed up a little bit from earlier this week, so it's not terribly cold out here. Really just a great day for the ceremonial start.
Yeah, perfect. And this is the beginning of what we're hearing is a big snowstorm coming in, which will be affecting the race in the very beginning here a little bit.
Yeah, there'll be beautiful images this morning and throughout the day for these dog teams that will make their way about 11 or 12 miles, but there is a major snow event hitting us right now.
Well, let's go ahead and meet some of the rest of our team. Channel 2 Sports Director Patrick Enslow is down in the chute. Patrick, what can you tell us from down there?
Charlie, the energy is picking up. We got a ceremony. Looks like mushers will probably be making their way down here soon. Snow's picking up, energy's picking up, and the crowd picking up as well. So just a great time down here, and we're ready to get things started. And always a fun day, and it's like opening day in Major League Baseball. Things are just getting started, and there's optimism everywhere. Charlie?
Thanks a lot, Patrick. And what you got to love about this day is that this is the day that there isn't a lot of, it's not the actual stuff.
Yes.
It's the ceremonial. So there's a lot of jovial behavior, people excited to see the dogs, meet the mushers. It's really one of the great events in Alaska.
It'll be a completely different field tomorrow. There's no anxiety today, no fear of, did I forget something? There's no frantic behaviors going on down there in the holding area with these dog teams. It is truly a parade. It's kind of an Alaskan version of a community parade, and there's pageantry and color and a lot of people.
Absolutely. Now we're going to meet some more of the team. Beth Burge is also down on 4th Ave. Let's take a look and see what she's got for us.
Charlie, I'm here with the crowd that is, as Patrick mentioned, growing this morning. Some of these people have been here since as early as we have, which is around 7 or so, but it's obviously an exciting event. You're going to hear some of these cheers every so often, and then, of course, those will increase as these mushers and their dogs all start to come down the chute. Now, we are kind of close to the start, as you can see behind me, but again, 57 mushers, hundreds of dogs, and lots more fans here in downtown Anchorage. People from all over the world, of course, come for this event, and we are so excited to be bringing you coverage from right here in town. Now, as for what's going to happen next, of course, you have the first musher that's going to go out. That's one of the Iditarod and honorary mushers, and then those 57 will be next, and we'll be here until 12:15. So we're looking forward to it. Charlie?
Beth, great stuff from down there. Now we got to go to the best seat in the house. Sean McGuire, he's actually going to be in a sled today. He's going to get a little tour. And so, Sean, what do you got for us? What does it look like where you are?
Well, here I am down here on 4th Avenue and 8th Street, and as you say, I'm going to have the best seat in the house. I'm actually going to be riding with this dog team behind me that's going to be driven by Mayor Vern Holter of the Matanuska-Susitna Borough. Now, he is going to be behind the sled. I am going to be in the sled. And the most important, absolutely most important question that I asked him, all our viewers care about the most, is he going to be able to get me through the trail safely? He promises yes. We aren't going to do a Jeff King. We aren't going to tip over on 4th and Cordova. So I'm really, really keeping my fingers crossed that I don't end up tipped over. But it's going to be a smooth ride. It's going to be awesome. I'm very excited. And I can't wait to show it to you guys. Back to you, Charlie.
Okay, thank you, Shaw. Welcome back to the desk. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get another Iditarod underway, but before we can talk about who we think is going to win this year's race, we got to go back to 2019 and recap last year's race.
2019 will be remembered as the year that Pete Kaiser parlayed his long-time potential into his first Iditarod championship, proving that a musher can come from off the road system and win. A yearly challenger, and at the time a 4-time champion in the Cusco 300, was now on top of the long-distance sled dog world.
Just to be from rural Alaska and, you know, all my peers out there and friends and family and everybody from out there, that's such a neat thing. But I mean, it is true, you know, I have Yupik heritage and descent, so it's very neat, but it's not the whole part of the deal, you know.
But that was the end of the journey. It was a race that featured a highly competitive field and a relentless deluge of snow from Mother Nature. It made for slow, soft trail.
Are you going all the way?
Yeah.
Allie Zirkle gambled, went all the way to Iditarod before stopping for her 24-hour rest. It proved too much. It rained and continued to warm on the Yukon River, and teams were dodging overflow and casual water. Nick Petit was in a makeshift poncho. It was Nick's team who dominated the race all the way to Shaktoolik, and he appeared like he would earn his first championship. But history repeated itself. Last year, Nick and his team got lost on the same run to Koyuk. This time, they just stopped.
So sorry for them that I wasn't able to keep them on the right path so that they could come in here first and show what they're made of. Do you give them another toughest run of their lives? You go home.
The door was open for Pete and Yor Olsen, who battled to the end, proving once again that it's a race right to that burled arch in Nome.
You can't clap with your gloves on.
And we'll begin this year with that very same question. Can Pete Kaiser do it again in back-to-back years? Ladies and gentlemen, it literally takes hundreds of people, a lot of work to get this race going. These guys started yesterday afternoon to get 4th Avenue ready for these 58 dog teams that will begin their journey today. We'll take a timeout. It's continuing coverage of the 48th annual Iditarod sled dog race here on KTUU and at Iditarod.com. Back in a moment. Hi, I'm Greg Heister, and we are getting close to the start of another Iditarod sled dog race. And I just wanted to take a few moments to say hello, number one, and number two, to let you know that the Insider team will be again out on the trail in full force this year, bringing you all of that great content that you have enjoyed for years now, with grand improvements. If you've been watching, then you know all about the Qrillpaws Arctic World Series. The Iditarod is the culminating race in that coverage, and the entire team that you saw in Minnesota, Norway, and Russia will be here with analysis and in-depth coverage that you enjoyed in all of those races. Our tracker has been updated with a new look, a new experience, new graphics and information. It's going to be easier for you to now follow your favorite team and mushers. Trust me, you're going to love it. So ladies and gentlemen, your investment today will allow these dogs to keep running down the trail and to perpetuate their purpose for years to come. So please, become an insider today. I'm Greg Heister. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see each and every one of you out on the Iditarod Trail.
Welcome back, Iditarod 48, Iditarod in the year 2020, and we've got to start to look ahead to what we might see in this race, guys. Pretty exciting time as really the crowds have grown up all around us this morning.
Yeah, and there literally will be thousands of people lining 4th Avenue down here in downtown Anchorage. For those watching outside of the state, it is Alaska's largest city, but it is a true exciting moment. Ceremonial start and a lot of energy.
Well, let's take a look at our top fives here. We want to find out, or we want to give the viewers some idea of who we think might be in the mix for this.
Yeah, and I think any year in the Iditarod, if Mitch Seavey is able to walk to the starting line, he's going to be one of the favorites to win this race. I've got him in my top five. I've got Nick Petit, Pete Kaiser, Jesse Holmes, and I like Travis Beals and Aaron Burmeister. He's such a veteran. He's been knocking at the door and trying to get to that finish line first for so many years. Keep an eye on him.
All right, and Bruce, where are you going on this one? Who do you think is going to maybe have a chance to be in that top five at the end?
Well, you can't ignore how well Nick has done this year. Nick Petit in other races. He's won a lot of races. I know he's had that difficulty out there, but remember out on the Bering Sea, but remember he's in first place. So if it's a fast trail, I like Nick. If it's a difficult trail, Jesse Royer and Mitch Seavey always do well on tough trails. Also, we've got to consider you're a recent champion. And then, but my favorite is Pete Kaiser. And as a dark horse, I'll throw in there, we have a musher coming here with a lot of experience with Thomas Warner, who just finished a race well in Norway. He's been out on the Iditarod Trail on snow machine studying this race. He has run it once before. He's kind of new, but so was Robert Sorley when he first came here.
Sometimes new doesn't make you a bad thing. I'm going to take a look at my list. I have Aaron Burmeister on my list at 5, just because you talked about it, the veteran nature. Yeah. He's been close before. He's a guy that knows how to run this race. Obviously, Mitch Seavey, you can have him anywhere in your top 5. He probably belongs right near the top. I've got Yor on there, past champion Pete, who looking to repeat. And also, I mean, you guys can probably talk to this better than I can. Once you've had a great team and you've got your kennel built up, it seems like you've got the ability to maybe go on a little bit of a run. And then at the top of my list, I have got Ali Zirkle, just because of her consistency. She hasn't won it, but she's been right at the top a whole bunch. So Ali's at the top of my list, and my wild card is Nick Petit. Not much of a wild card. He's a guy that can really compete. So.
And everything you just heard, throw it out the window, because you never know on the Iditarod. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go down to Patrick Enslow now. He's going to introduce you to a couple of people who have been part of the Arctic World Series, the Qrillpaws Arctic World Series coverage that Bruce and I have been a part of. If you've been watching at Iditarod.com, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's go down to Patrick.
All righty, thank you, Greg. I am joined by Carrie Ann with the Qrillpaws Arctic World Series, and Dallas Seavey. He's in a different capacity this year. Dallas, what's the ceremonial start like from this end?
Oh man, it's a little bit different. You know, I'm a rookie out here. Covering the race, talking about the race. It's something I love doing. I've been following dog racing since I was 5 years old, right? So it's exciting to be on this side, helping bring it out to a broader audience.
Good stuff. And Carrie Ann, this is your first time here. What do you think?
I'm a real rookie here. I mean, I've been covering sports events in different sports all over the world, but this one, I can say now, Iditarod checked. So it's really exciting to be here.
And we understand you've been to Olympics and things like that, and I guess so far, how does it stack up to some of these world-class events?
I mean, the atmosphere here is really great. It's you can really feel that this is culture here in Alaska, and I'm really honored to be able to.
You sunk my battleship.
There we go. And Dallas, what storylines are you looking forward to in this year's race? Now that you're covering it and you're not in it.
You know, it's funny to be even talking about storylines, right? That's something so far from my mind. I'm excited to take whatever stories happen and help kind of flesh that out. And help people understand what it is the musher is thinking. What are the dogs feeling, thinking, doing, what's going on in their minds here. So I'm excited to just discuss what's happening. I haven't really thought of it in the context of storylines so much as let's take the amazing stories that happen and just help, bring it to the audience and help people understand that, right? What is the strategy in this race? I think that's what I can bring to this event.
Good stuff, and I can't let you go without asking again, can we see you back in this race? I mean, you getting the itch to come back at all?
Oh, absolutely. I've raced the last 11 years every single year. My dad is 60, and he's running it again, right? So if you're going to do this for that long of a career, I think it's good to take a few breaks in there, take a couple years off. But yes, I'm coming back to the Iditarod. I love to see the new Iditarod doing a fantastic job. I'm excited to be involved with it in this capacity this year. And very soon, I think I'll be back on this trail.
All right, sounds good. We're going to toss it back to Greg.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, guys. And, you know, ladies and gentlemen, this event is all about the dogs, and some are just better than others. And oftentimes they find them at the front of the team. They're called lead dogs. There's some great ones over the years, like Granite and Larry and Andy. Well, now we're going to go talk with Allie Zirkle, who is remembering one of her greatest dogs, a female named Keto.
Well, this spot is pretty special in the yard. It's Keto's memorial here, so we wanted to put it here mostly because it, I mean, out of the way please, overlooks the whole yard, and she enjoyed laying up here overlooking the yard and laying on the porch overlooking the yard, so that's kind of her favorite spot. Just really the best dog in the world, and really it's just a real dedicated dog and smart, and anyway, she was really SB Kennel's heart and soul for both Alan and myself, which is kind of fun that, you know, one dog was able to keep up with two human beings. It was just amazing how physically and mentally talented, and it's hard to even use words that are real for her. But anyway, everyone respected her, human and dog, and she was awesome. Give her a howl. Oh! Champ, help me out.
The 2020 Iditarod Insider is better than ever with a new and improved GPS tracker interface. The new heads-up display allows you to see the standings of the race right on the GPS page. The GPS leaderboard has quick keys to let you see the info you want easily. The info button displays the musher's current race status. Click the bios and videos will drop down so you can see more about the musher, plus a list of their latest videos. Drag the box around on the screen and you can have all of your favorite mushers displayed anywhere you want. The analytics icon will display the run and rest cycles for that musher. Add mushers to the display to compare teams. The locate musher icon will move the screen to center on that musher, then zoom in to see a detailed map. The favorites icon is a quick way to focus on the mushers you want to follow. The checkpoint tab now shows the checkpoint in the race order with their race mile and distance to the finish. The locator icon jumps your map to that checkpoint. You'll see current and elapsed race time displayed below the tab bar. Of course, the entire HUD can be collapsed by clicking on the tray. In the upper right corner are the new map tools. Choose the view you like best.
There is always excitement on this ceremonial start day, no matter what the weather. And the good thing is that Anchorage has snow, and so does the trail. I've put a box around Anchorage and Willow, so that's where we're going to focus. It is snow as we get the day started, and likely during the morning hours. Anchorage, Willow, they could see an accumulation of maybe 2 inches. And then for Sunday in Willow, a winter weather advisory will be in effect. 8 to 16 inches of snow over portions of the Susitna Valley, and that will go all the way through Monday morning. That's when we expect the snow to end then. Now, as far as the forecast as we get into the weekend, check out this team. That's a happy team to be on the trail. And we have the top 2 tiers showing you the forecast for Willow Lake and Anchorage. Really, it's basically snow over the next 2 to 3 days with temperatures into the mid-20s to upper 20s during the day. People most interested in that forecast a lot of times, the Iditarod Air Force.
And we're back with Iditarod 48, Iditarod 2020. And looking to the side here, guys, we're about 3, 4, 5 deep down here in the start chute. Bruce, you've been in this race before. What is this part like as all the fans are crowded around your team?
Well, you have to realize there's a dynamic that's happened in the Iditarod where, you know, it is this always changing evolution, so to speak, on how the races run. And in the early days, the time actually started here in Anchorage. And from the minute you left that chute behind us, the clock was running. And that actually put a lot of pressure on us as mushers, because you would run at that point all the way out to Eagle River, get in a truck, drive out there to Wasilla, unload, and go again. And what we finally realized is all these fans came to celebrate the dogs and the event and the Alaskan culture. And they said, we're just going to make Saturday off the clock. Let's celebrate Alaska and sled dogs in this race. And it changed it to where then you could relax and enjoy the time with the fans, and they could come up and talk to you, and they wave for, I mean, like you said, they're 4 deep, but you got to realize this goes on for 10 or 12 miles. And so it's made it a real fun, relaxed celebration. And the fans get to participate as well.
All right, now we're going to check in with Sean McGuire, best seat in the house. Sean, what do you got for us from out in the seat, I suppose?
Well, guys, as you can see, I am in the best seat of the house. I am about to start riding down the streets of Anchorage on a sled, and you are getting a sled's eye view of what it looks like on 4th Avenue. It looks incredible. All the dogs are getting incredibly excited. As we get closer and closer to the start line, you're going to hear them bark louder and louder and louder. They are just going to be at fever pitch. They want to run. They want to run those 11, 12 miles down to Campbell Airstrip. It is the most exciting thing in the world for them, and they are ready to go. We are about to leave any second now, and we're going to be kicking off Iditarod 48. It's such an honor to be sitting here. You can see the crowd, you can see the energy, you can see all the people here ready, watching, waiting, unbelievably excited for the start of Iditarod. Everyone is here. Everyone is incredibly ready for it to get going, and the dogs are wagging their tails, about to get ready. And behind me is Mr. Vern Holter. You can see he's waving. That's the mayor of the Matsu Borough. He's also an 18-time Iditarod finisher. He finished 9 times in the top 10, including a 3rd place finish in 1999. And he also won the Yukon Quest in 1990. Now you can see the handlers up front. They are getting ready. It looks like we're about to go any second now. The dogs definitely think so, although the anthem might be playing, so maybe that's going to hold us off for a couple of seconds. But as you can see, the crowd is ready for us to go any second. Cameras are out, and we are about to leave. So I will throw it back to you in preparation for our trip down the streets of Anchorage.
We're so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the on a field of blue, Alaska's flag.
And we are back, and that was a great
love it.
rendition
I love it.
of the Star Spangled. It feels like the beginning of the Super Bowl.
It gives you chills with this snow falling. It's so apropos. It's so appropriate for snow to be falling for the start of an Iditarod sled dog race.
And you look all around the start chute here. We got people up on shoulders. You look up at the parking garage, people looking over the top. It is absolutely packed in downtown Anchorage.
Yeah, a reminder to everybody out there that are watching in TV land, if you're not an Iditarod insider, get over to Iditarod.com. Your support very much needed, especially in these troubled years when it comes trying to find sponsors to support this race. So your dollars, every penny that you're able to support the race with, goes back into the race, ensuring that these teams will continue to move to Nome for generations to come.
And we're going to have a lot of great footage and live footage from the trail. They'll get their money's worth, and it goes back to the race.
And there are a lot of places to watch coverage of this race, including here at KTUU. Nobody does it better than they do inside the state of Alaska. But it is important to support the insider because that money goes back into ensuring that the tradition, the heritage of this event continues.
And this race is going to be covered end to end, both by the Insider, by KTUU. We're going to have updates all throughout it. You guys are going to be sending back content that you guys will have on your Insider site. It's going to be the kind of access that you just can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, like we tell people, there's going to be live streaming cameras 24 hours a day. We cover the race like it's never been. We have snow machine crews in between the checkpoints. So, you know, when Nick had his trouble last year between Shaktoolik and Koyuk, our crew was with him the entire time, and that happens quite often.
Oh.
Sean is taking off.
Here we go. We're going to go to Sean McGuire, who is going to be coming down the chute.
And I don't know if he can hear us, but the question I'm going to ask him is that...
Who's going to grab the sled? Who's got the sled?
That's a different idea, right there.
Okay.
It doesn't look like
Take your
GoPro.
leashes off. Leashes off. You guys are a lot of long nails going through booties already. Yeah. No point putting that one. Hello, Senator. Hey, Bert. How you doing?
All right, good dignitaries that want to say hello to Senator Lisa Murkowski, Lieutenant Governor of Alaska, Kevin Meyer, Street Mayor Ethan Brickey.
They told me not to kill this channel today.
Nome is with us today, and
All the way, Camel Esther. Oh, you're up the Definitely not. Definitely not going to dump me. Definitely not. I'm going to be safe. I know Senator Murkowski there. She is wishing me well. She's not saying that she wants me to tip over, but she
Hey, Sean, this is Greg up at the desk. Can you hear us?
Well, it's a little bit loud down here. The dogs are very excited, very ready to go.
What you're feeling right now, are you nervous? Are you excited? Is there anxiety?
I am feeling very excited, and we are off. You can see we are going down 4th Avenue now with the dogs quieten down a little bit. Once they start running, they stop barking, but you get a sled's eye view here. You can see the thousands of people watching, and the dogs are doing what they do best. They are running. They are excited, and it is incredible the power you feel sitting inside a sled. They are incredibly fast and powerful, and I hope that you guys get to enjoy this as much as I do. It is an absolutely incredible experience.
Sean is on his way out, and so are we. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, we're doing fan questions? Oh, groovy. Hi. Okay, ready? It depends on, so on the trail when I'm out of a checkpoint, it takes a little bit longer because usually you do not have water. So when I pull off and I'm about to camp out, I kind of always ask the dogs, are you guys ready to camp out? And so they get pretty excited because that means straw and snacks and food and all that.
When is this going to air? I technically, secrets of the trade. Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm doing differently. So we have a requirement for snowshoes, and the size of the snowshoes is 150 some square inches. I've had these snowshoes for years. So I'm bringing along a second pair of snowshoes, small, that I can tramp around, make a path, get my dogs off the trail.
Well, my favorite mushers, last year was probably one of my favorite races because I got to hang out with all my favorites, which was Pete and Yor and Allie. Another one would be Richie. There's a lot of fun mushers to hang out with.
6,
right, we're back here on Iditarod 48, and the first rider is getting ready to go out. Martin Massacati, a rookie, and exciting for him to get to run out that chute.
Yeah, what a moment this must be for him with all these people coming from Quebec, Canada, his hometown. But Martin Massacati, a rookie, we saw him at the Bear Grease.
Yeah, when we were out traveling around looking at other races, he was there, and he was pretty excited at the Bear Grease, but I bet this takes it to a whole nother level.
Well, it's got to, but you guys saw him. What did you learn there that you might be able to see as he gets ready to take on this really ultimate challenge?
Well, the main thing is they just get the miles on the dogs, and they learn those run-rest cycles. So they don't just come off of training runs around home. They've already been out on the trail, and that's a really positive thing for any team.
Well, it looks like with Marty, we've got Iditarod Marty Margison, so that the Iditarider. So that's exciting. Always got to be fun to be in that sled, get to go by all the people, see what's going on out there as they make the trek, and really get cheered the whole way around.
Yeah, that's a fundraiser for Iditarod, having those Iditariders as well to help support getting the trail put in, and all the vets out there, and the straws.
Well, we got a new race for
This is Tim Pappas.
And the interesting thing about Tim is he is actually, if I'm correct, running Martin's A team.
Yeah, no, he's out there competing. And I asked him this morning, so did Martin help you with the strategic plan, run-rest schedule? He says, he didn't. We talked philosophically, but we did not talk about a race plan. So this is Tim's real shot, his first real competitive race out of Happy Trails Kennel.
Yeah, so we know he's got great dogs.
He
and
does.
Martin wanted to take a year and just kind of relax and train the B team, so to speak. So that's quite an opportunity for Tim out there. And he seems real level-headed.
Yeah, I like him.
Very serious, but very level-headed.
And we've got our next dog team is getting set. This one always a fan favorite. Christy Barrington, she's got her team ready to go here. She's been in the mix. Her and her sister have been around Iditarod for a number of years now. I remember when they were both rookies getting into this.
I remember when they were both dog handlers.
Yeah.
So they've been around the sport quite a while.
Christy has 10 Iditarod finishes.
Yeah.
Anna, I believe, has 8 or 9. So there's nearly 20 Iditarod finishes between these two twin sisters who will be mushing together as they always do all the way to Nome. But what a great partnership they've had. And, again, a lot of attention. And when you go to Iditarod.com and you look at the analytics of that, there are a lot of people that are interested in the Barringtons, and I guess there's a soundbite. Let's go to Christy
Last
Barrington.
year, both you and sister top 20 finishes. Is this the year that you guys feel that you can push into the top 10?
Oh man, I would love that. We definitely tweaked our training schedule and race plans for it, but there are a lot of good teams in it this year. I feel like it's going to be a battle just to be in the top 20.
2, 1, go!
I don't know what it is out here, guys, but something smells delicious as we sit up here. Christy Barrington getting her way down the trail there. You were talking about Iditarod Insider earlier. The tracker, a lot of times you'll watch, and the Barrington sisters will be right next to each other on the track, and you can tell that they're camping out somewhere along the way.
Yeah, they'll rarely will there be 100 yards separating those two dog teams.
Yeah, a lot of teamwork there, and somebody to talk to when you're out there on the trail.
They're twin sisters. It's hard to be apart.
Bruce, you've been out there though, and how lonely can it get when you're out there and you're in the middle of nowhere?
The great Iditarod musher Rick Swinson was asked that question once while we were out there on the trail. If it gets lonely, he says, "I've never been lonely out here. I'm always with my dogs." And that's the answer. Here comes a guy in the chute now, Ramey Smith, that has tons of experience in the chute, getting ready to go. Fastest time, safety to Nome, for Iditarod fans that don't know the race. That's at the end. This guy has that record more than anybody. Ramey and his family have put a lot into this race. Ramey Smith, you ask about what it's like to be out there. The last thing you want to see on the Bering Sea coast is Ramey Smith behind you, because you know it's over. Fast finisher.
Well, and he's one of those guys. He's doing some running along with the dogs sometimes, kind of getting out there.
He always has super fast finishes along the Bering Sea coast. Super guy.
All right, guys, and we are going to be heading down to Beth Verge here in just a second, I believe. Beth, what do you got for us?
Well, the energy picking up here at the 48th running of the Iditarod. The ceremonial start, of course, attracting crowds from around the world. Rami is leaving in about 4 seconds, as you can hear that countdown going right now. But if you look down here, lots of people lining this fence. And I would like to talk to Sam, who has brought his daughter Riley actually for her first Iditarod. Rami, of course, having run many, right? What's the news for this morning? How are you feeling about this start?
It's awesome. It's like no other event I've ever been to. We've been to many events, whether hockey, baseball, football, and this is something that is definitely it's unreal compared to any other event. So
now they just moved to Alaska, right, in September. So seems like it's kind of a build up to this event, right?
Yes, we've been looking forward to this for quite some time. So a lot of people that have been up here before have told us about Veranda and the Iditarod, so it's kind of surreal to be out here to be able to actually experience it.
Well, thanks so much for chatting with us. Riley's starting to clap, so I know this is going to be a good morning. All right, thank you so much. So, of course, wonderful event. There's still lots going on and many mushers left for us to see depart from the ceremonial start. Of course, the restart tomorrow in Willow, about 59 miles or so away from here. But we're excited to be here this morning, and we'll be back checking in with you in about 40 minutes or so.
And welcome back. Fabio Berlusconi is at the start line, and I talked to Fabio this winter. He's working out of the Linwood Fiedler Kennel. Very, very excited. This guy's been around kennels in Alaska for a few years now. He's a real dog person, loves this, loves to be out in the snow and the cold, and I know he's excited because he's one of these guys, Bruce, that has put everything in his life to this moment.
Yeah, and Linwood told me that he's really feels confident about him doing a good job with the dogs, and he's been real helpful around the kennel. And I said, how helpful has he been? And Linwood said, well, with all the snow, he's learned to use a snowblower a lot. So that's an aspect, because that's part of a kennel. It's not just running dogs, it's this whole operation. Mushers have to be a jack of all trades. You got to be able to fix and do everything. So I'm sure he got a good test and good training at Linwood's.
And isn't that just an example, an Italian coming all the way over to race in this race, of how worldwide the Iditarod really is, the last great race. It's something that people from all across the globe can see and get inspired by and then want to go be a part of.
Yeah, we caught up to Fabio earlier this winter.
I have never been in such a long race, and of course there's nothing that can prepare you to the long hours without sleep, and that's the only thing, you know. Try not to have any crazy hallucinations and try to keep up with sleep deprivation. That's, of course, you know, big storms and everything and the gorge or whatever, that all sounds pretty scary for a rookie, but, you know, being able to keep focused and for 10, 12 days, whatever it's going to be, that's probably the biggest challenge.
I can't think of a better way to spend the morning than with 58 teams of sled dogs.
Fabio Berlusconi on his way. And got a big grin on that face. He's a happy guy this morning.
Big old grin. Now our next musher is going to be Wade Mars, and a lot of these guys, they do support different causes, groups. They try to raise awareness. Wade is one of them. He's raising awareness about the Turner syndrome and says what he's learned has changed the way he looks at life.
Everything's a challenge and everything's a fight, and you know, I'm very blessed to have the life that I have and the health that I have, and so it's, you know, as bad as things can get, they're really not that bad, especially out on the trail. So it helps you look through adversity and kind of like stand up to it and push through challenging times.
And now, as we get ready to see Wade go right down 4th Avenue here, guys, what can you tell me about what Wade brings to the table? He's been a guy that has been in the mix before.
Well, he has. He's had some scratch. He's had a scratch. But he's had some very successful races. He's dedicated. He and his wife have built a nice facility with the focus of training dogs to live where there's good trails, and they're really dedicated to this whole lifestyle. And I think he's one of those guys you have to kind of watch. I mean, he definitely has the capability of being in position in the top 5 if he has a good, clean run.
Yeah, I'm just looking down the list of his finishes now. Anytime you've got a handful of top 10s under your belt, you're at least somebody that's got to be a threat. to win a race. So
he's in it to win it.
He's the real deal. Yeah. And not like in his adult life. This started with him when he learned to walk. It really did. I mean, he was in that mushing community in Kennel, and this has been his dream since he was a little kid. He's told us at one time when he had a crayon, was drawing pictures. His pictures were always sled dogs and the Iditarod banners.
That's fantastic. So. It must be great. He's got to have one of those like on a wall somewhere of back when he was a kid. All right, we're going to check back in with Sean McGuire, who's been tooling around a little bit. Sean is, I don't know, hopefully still on the sled there.
Hey guys, yes, I am on the sled still. I am very comfortable. I am riding on the Chester Creek Trail. There are hundreds of people here. They're all cheering us on. They're all really excited to see us. And as you can see, the dogs, you may have noticed they are calm. They are running very well. They're trotting along, looking very comfortable. This is a great day out for them. This is just very, very easy distance. They're having a great time. And the crowd's here having a great time as well, watching us. I mean, it's a great experience, and we're about to take a corner. Vern tells me that the snow is perfect. Oftentimes people come down here, the snow is very thin. It's really hard to slow down. It's really hard to keep the teams at a good speed, but there's enough snow on the trail, and it means that dogs are enjoying the ride, and so are the mushers. They're able to keep the speeds low, which is a big risk when you're mushing. As you can see, the crowds here are enjoying it just as much as the dogs because the temperature is really nice. There's light snowfall. Dogs and people are having a great time. And Iditarod 48 has begun. So I'll throw it back to you guys. I'm having a great time here.
We have about 50 dogs in our kennel. It's comprised of basically 3 groups. The first little group is our puppies. We tend just to have 1 litter every year or every other year. And so we have our youngest dogs, and then we have our teenagers with our retired race leaders as another group. And that group this year is going to run Iditarod at a relaxed pace. And then we have 20 dogs that are in our our final cut of race dogs. And out of that 20, we
start line again. Peter, born in Bethel, 32 years old. He was raised there in Bethel. He graduated from Bethel High School in 2005.
All right, guys, Peter Kaiser coming up, and he got a big cheer just a second ago. Your defending champion, and a guy that had been threatening for a number of years leading up to that great victory. What did you think about the run that he made last year?
Well, he just ran a very, very patient race. He just kept in position. And there were, a number of those teams there, Jesse Royer, Pete and Yor, and they just kind of stayed together. And then when Nick fell, they were in position to go. And that dog team looked great. Of course, he's just killing it out on the Kuskokwim 300, which he did again this year. He's just always been a favorite of mine from the first time I ever saw him run. It's been a kind of a fun back and forth with Greg, because the first year I saw him run, I said he's going to win this someday. And it's just fun to pick people and watch them progress. Super guy and a great champion.
We heard from Pete earlier today, so let's listen to what he had to say before this all started.
Who's your fiercest competitor this year?
I don't think there's one, just one. There's definitely several, but, you can look at any of the top 10 from last year, plus throw in a few more, and, obviously yours a top competitor, and Mitch and Nick, and, Jesse and Allie, and you could just go on and on and on. So there's a lot of teams that can win, and a lot of good stiff competition. I wouldn't narrow it down to just one, and who knows, this race could get really shaken up by a big storm on the coast or something. So you never know.
If you had to pick, besides yourself, who did you pick to win?
Oh, man. I don't know. I'm going with myself.
All right, guys. Well, I know that it meant an awful lot to that community out in Bethel when Pete won. I've got a number of friends from out that way, and the way that they felt that brought everybody together was pretty special.
It meant a lot to the entire state, and it meant a lot to this race because it commemorates why Joe Reddington started this race in 1973. It was to keep the dream and the hope and to keep these dog teams alive and well in the communities in distant locations.
Well, let's take a look at our next musher here. We've got Lev Schwartz coming up, the veteran, and looks like he's getting ready to take off here. Our Ukrainian musher, it says here, born in the country, and now you getting ready to run this year's race. Again, that goes back to our worldwide event a little bit, mushers from all over the place. How come this race draws people from everywhere?
I think people from everywhere love the North Country.
Yeah, it's the being out of everything that Alaska represents and has. There's a mystique here about very few places in the world have this much open country, and traveling that with sled dogs just captivates people.
Yeah, I think if you chop off the top 25% of this globe, I mean, everybody living in that part of the world, they're just so excited about this and almost mystified by a dog team traveling across the North Country on our beautiful planet. This is Lev Schwartz, trying to get to know him for the third time in his career. He's an interesting, colorful character. We love Lev Schwartz. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching live coverage of the 48th annual Iditarod Sled Dog Race. We are live from 4th Avenue in Anchorage when we're back in a moment. Hi, I'm Greg Heister, and we are getting close to the start of another Iditarod Sled Dog Race. And I just wanted to take a few moments to say hello, number one, and number two, to let you know that the Insider team will be again out on the trail in full force this year, bringing you all of that great content that you have enjoyed for years now, with grand improvements. If you've been watching, then you know all about the Qrillpaws Arctic World Series. The Iditarod is the culminating race in that coverage, and the entire team that you saw in Minnesota, Norway, and Russia will be here with analysis and in-depth coverage that you enjoyed in all of those races. Our tracker has been updated with a new look, a new experience, new graphics and information. It's going to be easier for you to now follow your favorite team and mushers. Trust me, you're gonna love it. So ladies and gentlemen, your investment today will allow these dogs to keep running down the trail and to perpetuate their purpose for years to come. So please, become an insider today. I'm Greg Heister. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see each and every one of you out on the Iditarod Trail.
Nice. And we're back, and we've got a guest with us, four-time champion Dallas Seavey. Dallas, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, man. It's Iditarod start.
And obviously, the beginning is more for the fans, and we've got Laura Neese about to start here. But what does it feel like to be down in that start chute when you're getting ready to go out on a ceremonial day?
You know, it's a lot of nerves because it's Iditarod start, but it is for fans. This is the parade start, and you're trying to enjoy the moment, but in the back of your mind, you know that we got to do this for real tomorrow.
And you were telling me, Bruce, that you guys have spent some time talking to Laura this year. What can you tell us about what she's been doing with her team?
Well, she's really dedicated in the long run to this sport. She's worked in kennels long term. I've seen her at other races. Greg and I visited with her a lot during the Bear Grease race down in Minnesota that we were lucky enough to cover. And she's just willing to take the long road and learn as much as she can about mushing and racing. And in her future, I don't expect her to be in the top 10, but in the future, I think we're going to hear this name a lot.
And Dallas, I was listening to what you were saying earlier today. I got to find out more about this. You said something about only getting into dog mushing at 5. I feel like that was your whole family forever.
Yeah, I mean, I got to take it from where I was consciously aware of things a little bit, you know. Obviously, I had the benefit of years of knowledge and experience in the sport when I was born into it, right? But for me, I really started when I was 5, so I got a late start, but that's all right.
Yeah, I feel like you did all right.
Yeah.
All right, so now we've got Lance Mackey coming up, and obviously anytime you're talking about a champion, Lance's name's going to come up. You've competed against him. What makes Lance a tough competitor in this race?
Lance is a tough competitor. That's what makes him a tough competitor. The fact that when it comes, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. That embodies Lance Mackey on this trail. He's the guy that's willing to do what it takes. He's got the grit, right? I think that's his strong suit, is the grit. And he knows his dogs. He's a good dog man.
Now, also, he's a guy that Lance has been tricky a few times out on the trail. Yeah. You have to worry about him in a way that maybe you don't have to worry about anybody else.
At least when he does something like that, it's high profile, right?
Yeah.
That's part of it. But I've learned a lot watching Lance, both what to do and what not to do.
Well, we've got some sound. We talked to Lance this morning. Let's hear what he had to say.
How is your health feeling?
I'm doing really well for what I'm working with.
You feel like it's you're going to be solid the entire trail ride?
I'm always going to be the weak link from my team, and I have no problem admitting that. I'm standing here right now, my fingers are frozen. It's the way it is. I've learned to do things a little differently. I've learned not to set myself up for disappointment by saying I'm going to go be in the top 10 or the top 20. This team's capable of winning. That doesn't mean it's going to.
So Lance getting ready to come down 4th Avenue here. The first sled dog race I ever covered was his first Yukon Quest win. So he won basically everything I had covered for years in a row.
Yeah, he had an amazing run there. Winning both the Quest and the Iditarod in the same year. An unprecedented act there. That was pretty amazing to see.
So when you look at your own success, you look at the success of somebody like Lance, some of the other 4-time winners, how much are you guys all chomping at the bit to join that group of 5?
That's important, and ever since I won my first race, people have been talking about 5, and I kept saying, I'm going to focus on the next one. It just so happens that now the next one is 5, so that's kind of getting exciting there. But focusing on winning doesn't really help you much. You focus on doing a great race, training a great team, and that's what causes you to win.
We've got a package coming up now, guys. We're going to take a look at about lead dogs and just how important they are.
Yeah, I've had her since she was just a day old, and she's, for whatever reason, always had this connection with me, unlike any of the other dogs. Sarah Jane, don't get in Greg's face. Come here. Even when she's running a team with me, she'll take a command before I even know that that's the way that I want to go. Before I've even verbalized that we should turn right, she's already turning right for me. And she also loves to run and lead, so the second that you put a harness on her, she is running up to the front of the line, and she just turns around and sits down and says, "This is my spot, so you need to hook me up right there. This is where I deserve to be."
All right, guys, now you guys have both run this race. You've both had great lead dogs. Bruce, let's start with you. Tell me about one of your favorites.
My favorite lead dog, actually was one that I bought as a puppy from the great Susan Butcher. And that dog was just so full of personalities and just so into himself, but yet when he got out on the trail, he was just focused on going over the next hill. And there's a seriousness to a lot of leaders, but you also have leaders that are just playful. And the main thing is they'll have dynamic personalities, and I think the musher's job is to find the skill set that dog is good at and let it get out of its way and let it excel at that. Let it be the leader that it can really focus on, whether it's speed or breaking trail or G-Haw. There's a variance, and I think Dallas will agree. It's finding the skill for each dog in the team, not deciding what you want to make it.
What about you, Dallas?
I've had many special lead dogs, to be sure. First one that comes to mind is Guinness. She was my leader when I won my first race in 2012, and the lesson I learned from her is don't assume what a dog can do. Let them show you. Support them, build them up, and let them show you just what they can do. She was supposed to be too small to race, and she ended up winning the Golden Harness Award and the Iditarod title, so they can become a lot.
We're going to go ahead and take a look at another story here. It is Deke. I can't say that name. Deke is coming up. Let's take a look at what they have to say.
Just living on the trail and taking 14 dogs myself and becoming like one unit. And by day 3 or day 4, usually last year in the Quest, this became second nature with you know, the trail routine and seeing the dogs perform and sleeping with them in the straw. So just being out there with my team. So
what are you most nervous about?
The unknowns, the things that I know I don't know. Like I don't know anything about the coast. I heard it can be pretty nasty. I'm an interior musher, so I've never had this wide open, windy experience. So a little nervous about the coast, but we'll just deal with it when we get there. So yeah.
And now we've got Deke Knackenborgen coming down 4th Avenue here behind us, getting that start. He is a rookie, so that's always exciting for anybody. I mean, Dallas, you were a younger guy when you started your racing career, but do you remember that first trip down 4th Ave?
I do. I actually was the youngest ever to go down the street here as a Iditarod musher, as I turned 18 the day before the race starts. So very fortunate birthday there. But no, it's an adrenaline rush, right? You've dreamt about this your whole life, and to actually be taking off, it's a powerful moment, right? And then the fans and everything out here makes it so real.
And how much different is it between, you know, the ceremonial start, you've got the pomp, the circumstance, and then tomorrow the real race starts? How much different is that feeling?
It's hugely different, especially I think for a rookie musher like Deke there. This is going to be a big difference for him when he hits this thing tomorrow, and it's game time. For the pros, I think you're going to see a little more just calm businessmanship, right? Or, you know, it's very business-like. Get the job done, get through the process, but everybody handles stress and nervous their own way.
All right, and now we've got our next musher coming up here. It is Karen Hendrickson, a veteran, Karen 49, and raised in California. I'm always fascinated by the people that are raised somewhere warm and end up coming up to the state and being a part of Iditarod, because you just wonder, how did that story unfold, right?
It's just the dogs. It's just the dogs and being around them, and it's, you know, it's romantic. A lot of people you talk to around the world, their first introduction to sled dogs was reading Jack London as a kid, you know, and that whole aspect of
and
that.
Here's a guy that came from Australia. Our own Sean McGuire is out there with the sled dogs.
Hey guys, so we just had a pretty exciting experience. We were riding along the Chesapeake Creek Trail, and a moose cow and her calf stepped across the trail, which is really a musher's worst nightmare, because a moose can come through and trample a team. But thankfully she got off the trail, walked away, but it really excited the team. As you can see now, they're really bounding. It really gave them this whole burst of energy. We really hope for the teams behind us that moose stays off the trail. But we are going through, everything's incredibly smooth. You can see there's a lot of fans waving us along. We've got given a hot dog, a few cookies from Trail Gators. Vern even got given a beer. So it really is a party atmosphere out here. It is incredibly fun. And there's another beer on offer. So it is just full of action, and it really is the best seat in the house. I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. Okay, back to you guys.
That's Sean McGuire out there in the sled dog seat. We're going to take a break now, but with Dallas, Seavey, and Bruce Lee, we'll be right back.
The 2020 Iditarod Insider is better than ever with a new and improved GPS tracker interface. The new heads-up display allows you to see the standings of the race right on the GPS page. The GPS leaderboard has quick keys to let you see the info you want easily. The info button displays the musher's current race status. Click the bios and videos will drop down so you can see more about the musher, plus a list of their latest videos. Drag the box around on the screen and you can have all of your favorite mushers displayed anywhere you want. The analytics icon will display the run and rest cycles for that musher. Add mushers to the display to compare teams. The locate musher icon will move the screen to center on that musher, then zoom in to see a detailed map. The favorites icon is a quick way to focus on the mushers you want to follow. The checkpoint tab now shows the checkpoint in the race order with their race mile and distance to the finish. The locator icon jumps your map to that checkpoint. You'll see current and elapsed race time displayed below the tab bar. Of course, the entire HUD can be collapsed by clicking on the tray. In the upper right corner are the new map tools. Choose the view you like best.
Both of you guys are excited about Richie Deal. He's just getting ready to get out. We've heard from him already, so let's go to that sound.
This being my 8th one, I never thought I'd be doing 8 Iditarods, but here we are.
You've heard about all of the snow on the trail mindset, knowing that that's what you guys are going to have to face this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of snow out there, and I mean, we've had these predictions, or we've had this news before. I mean, not quite as much, but there's been, when we started out at Fairbanks one year, there was a lot of snow. And, I mean, it could go 2 ways. It could be a hard, fast trail with all the cold temperatures, or it could blow in. I mean, I think we're going to see a little bit of everything though on this one.
Guys, you guys were both talking about Richie before we got back from break. What is it that makes this somebody to watch? You were saying you're rooting for him a little bit.
Yeah, no, I love Richie as a dog musher, right? He's a good dog man. He knows what he's doing on the trail. He's focused on the right things. He's been fairly consistent, which I like to see, working his way up there. I think he's one we're going to see in the top, not just once or twice, but for a long time to come.
And Bruce, you were talking about some of his successes or his improvements this year. What have you seen that makes you think he could have a good run?
Well, he is, as Dallas said, he's meticulous and he's consistent. And when you see consistency in building towards the front, that's in for the long run. And he got third in the Cusco 300, and that is a tough race.
Now, coming up right now, we've got another rookie. It is Gabe Dunham coming through, 35 years old, born in Fairbanks. Always got to love when we get a few people from in the state that are going to be competing as well. As people get ready to start this race, Dallas, what is, especially with the snow, we've had a lot of it, what is that first section of trail going to present as a challenge?
Well, obviously today they're just doing the parade of Anchorage, right? But tomorrow I think what's really going to be on their mind is, do we push to the front of this race and try to get on that better trail, or is it better to be even more conservative because this is going to be a long race, right? So you're going to see a real torn musher. Do we push and get out there, make it easier for the dogs, or kind of compensate by taking more rest in the beginning of the race?
Is that just a feeling you gauge based on how you've run your dog team at any given time, or are you looking at maybe what you think other teams are capable of? Early in the race, you may not have the best feel of what the other guys are doing.
I think you focus on your own team, right? I think you focus on your team. If you've got a type of team that you think you can get a little bit out in front of the race without doing any damage early on, maybe it's worth doing that to get down the steps before everybody tears it up, to get through the gorge early on. Have that easier trail over to Finger Lake where it's traditionally very punchy. So that's a dog thing. If you're not trained to do that, though, it's better to even hold back even more and accept the fact it's going to be a slow trail and give them extra rest to make up for that.
And what do you think on that, Bruce? That early part of the trail, whether it's snowy or not, how do you approach that?
It's exactly what Dallas said. You've got to analyze the trail conditions and how quickly they are improving or deteriorating. And should I move up a little bit more to take advantage of the trail, or back up and just let the other guys pack it down a little bit? I would guess with the amount of snow, if I could have my dream on this trail, I'd want to probably be out towards the front in the beginning before the trail gets punched out.
Well, we've got another Barrington joining us, Anna Barrington. We talked to her earlier this morning. Let's see what she had to say on ceremonial start day.
You and your sister have typically usually run together. Is this the year that you guys kind of make a break for the top 10?
I don't know. Find out.
Okay. What is it about your dog team this year that has you confident?
I've got a nice. The overall average of my team is 3 years old, 3.07 years old. But I do have some good experienced ones on the team, and I just think of just a well-rounded group with different talents for the stuff that we're going to encounter along the way.
Well, the Barringtons handle it one way. They do a lot of traveling together. They hang out together. The Seaveys do it a little bit different, it seems like, when you guys are out there competing. Dallas, talk about when you were out there on the trail and maybe you see your dad and you guys are both competing. What has that been like for the two of you, and did it shift at any point as you got to be more competitive?
Sure, I think there was definitely a shift in there. It went from me trying to make it into the top 10 or maybe even make it into the top 5 to where it was my dad and I duking it out in the final miles of the race. So it was different when we were both in the same race, and if one of us wasn't winning, we hoped the other one was.
Right.
To when one of us wasn't winning because the other one was. That's a major change in there. But my dad and I have a great relationship, and of course it's nice to see him out there. But on the race, he's another competitor, right? We're not stopping and gabbing.
How much are you breaking down? Like, I know he likes to do this. I've been around him. Is there more gamesmanship when you know somebody that well?
Yeah, no, it's really tough because on one hand, you know them so well. You know his strengths. You know his weakness. I know that if I get out of here in front of him, he's going to push to catch up, and that might slow his speed down. And then you feel bad because you're using this knowledge that you know about him so intimately, right? So it's a really, you're kind of torn in that process.
But that has to be give and take. He probably knows you pretty well, too.
Yes, he does. You know, he's known me longer than I've known him, I guess.
All right, well, we've got our next musher in the chute here. It is Jason Campo, another veteran out of Canada. Can you tell me anything about what Jason is maybe going to be looking to do in this race?
Well, Jason has been building this team up over a few years. For a while, he got a very serious injury one year and wasn't sure he was going to be able to race anymore. But then last year he came back. That was a big year. His dad was up here, his brother, his whole family supporting it, and he made it, and he's doing really well. And he told me this is the best team he's ever put together, and he was pretty excited when I talked to him about 4 days ago about this team, and he's hoping to move up in his finishes. And then he wants his wife, who's also a musher, to run the Iditarod next year. So it's that thing, if you stand too close to the vortex, you may fall in. So, but he's very dedicated to this, and he's got this set up. And his finances and his support to be dedicated to it, have a good kennel. And he's from British Columbia, but he was actually training in the interior along the Denali Highway this winter.
You're talking about the injury. He's racing with a helmet, and so a little bit something different than maybe you'd see from the average person out here. But that's going to make a difference. If that's something that you're worried about or thinking about on the trail, and he's taking the precautions.
That's true. I mean, he did get that concussion, but that's just, everybody has different things they have to deal with on the trail. I mean, the Iditarod is so multi-layered. There's just so many things with the dogs and the people and the individual places that they're at and finances and the trail. I mean, that's the dynamics that's so, there's challenges after challenges.
Well, we've got Travis Beals coming up, and we did talk to him today, so let's find out what he was saying.
He's just a lot of energy in this guy. He's a little Energizer bunny. He just loves his job and loves to be on the trail and never tires, and just a good overall steady dog. And I've had him since a pup, and I imagine as an 8-year-old he'll probably be on the main team again. These guys live such a healthy lifestyle and getting so fed so good and trained just like Olympic athletes that they typically outlive your average American, overweight house pet. And I'm guilty of a few of those, too.
Improved his placement in the Iditarod. Was in the top 10 the last.
And so Travis, obviously a guy he's improved the last handful of years. He's gotten into that top 10 twice. When you start breaking into the top 10, does it mean anything? Does it feel like you're making headway?
You know what I love to see on Travis, and I've known Travis for a long time, what I love to see on him is that oftentimes you see mushers that they maybe break into the top 10, but then they drop way back again. I like to see that small improvement. He finished in 9th in 2018, presumably made some small changes, some small improvements, jumped it up to top 5. Now hold that ground you gained, make some small changes, and move up again. I'm going to be excited to see if he can land in the top 10 again this year, possibly again in the top 5.
All right, and we're going to go down to Beth Verge. She's down in the chute. We've got more coming for you from Beth. Oh, apparently we do not have more coming from Beth. Yeah, we're going to wait on that, but we've got our next musher coming up here, and this is somebody that I think everybody's paying attention to. He was either in or just outside of everybody's, kind of preview top 5. Nicholas Petit. He's somebody that has challenged to win this race. He's also had some scratches like last year. What makes his teams dangerous?
Yeah, what makes Nick dangerous is that he's pedal to the metal the whole time, right? He's going hard the whole way here. And so, he's a contender to win this thing for sure. But it's also almost a little bit of a volatile type situation, right? Last year we saw him right up in the front of the race and ultimately not finishing the race. So, this is something where he knows how to race hard, but can he learn how to manage it all the way to the finish and kind of use that energy more in a spread out manner, right?
We talked to Nick earlier today, and we'll see what he had to say, especially after last year's scratch.
What are you going to be thinking about as you, head up to the coast, knowing what's been going on with your team the last 2 years?
I'm going to think about how Joey's not going to be behind Danny. He's going to be next to him. And there'll be girl butts in front of Joey instead of boy butts in front of Joey. And that should fix one problem.
How do you fix the other ones?
Trust your dogs.
Bruce, how do you make the determination? You work all year to get here, to get to the Iditarod. You're out there, and then you have to decide, we've got to stretch. How do you make that determination as a musher out on the trail?
I've never made that decision, so I can't speak from experience, but I think for most mushers, it's just realizing what's best for the dogs. That's the simplicity of it. Something comes up, and it's not, I've been there when a lot of mushers have scratched, I'll put it this way, and it's always very emotional. It's a disappointment, and it's because it's more than the race. It's a whole year of hard work by a lot of people, and that's always a big emotional deal to drop out of the race. But if it's best for the dogs, there's always next year.
Always next year, and it is part of this race. You're out there, you're in the wilderness, a lot can go wrong, so you don't want to be putting either yourself or the dogs in a bad situation.
Absolutely. You've got to string together, somewhere between 8 and 12 days of good decisions. And you make a few small decisions that are wrong decisions, and you make those bad decisions early on, and it can compound and put you in a position where, you know what? I guess this was a learning year, right? We're going to come back and do it better next year. As long as you learn from those mistakes, you're still moving forward.
And here we go. Nicholas Petit, it appears, is coming on down this way.
And I think that's the key. You don't look at it as a failure if you want to be positive and progress. It's a learning opportunity. What did I learn in that experience that I won't do or I can do better the next time? And the thing that's so interesting about Nick is we won't know until almost the end of the race.
We're going to go down to Beth Bird. She's on 4th Ave.
Big Lakes very own Kelly Maxner.
Great stuff, guys.
Good.
On the chute,
nice looking dog.
So
just
Dallas
moments
needs
away
to talk
from
about
where
this.
we are standing. Just moments from where we are standing right now, and of course, as you know very well, he's faced a lot of adversity in the last couple of years. Excited to see him come down. You can hear the cheers from the crowd all around, all the way down to where you can't even see anymore. So lots of excitement here for the 48th running of the Iditarod. I do want to mention as well, we have the I Spied keyword game in place this year. You can win 25,000 Alaska Air miles. We're hoping you guys will all join in on this. You can watch all of our newscasts on the weekends and during the week. You have the morning edition as well as our evening newscasts at 5, 6, and 10 p.m. You're going to look for the Iditarod coverage and the keyword, and then you are going to go to our KTUU.com website, of course, and you are going to enter the keyword. In this case right now is keyword. So if you want to go to our website right now, you can do so and enter that contest. Again, 25,000 Alaska Air miles for watching the newscast and getting that keyword and sending it right to us. All right, back to you.
Now this next musher, Kelly Maxner, this is exciting because we have you here, Dallas. Tell us a little bit about this dog team that is running.
Sure. Kelly's a good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time since he got into mushing with his own dogs. He's since then got rid of got out of mushing, and he's still involved with it though. He doesn't have his own dogs, but this team that he's running right now are dogs from my kennel. Mostly younger dogs, but it's a mix. It's a nice, solid team. I mean, man, I'm excited looking at them because I'll be running those guys here real soon.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Are these dogs that you're hoping are going to be a part of a future Iditarod
Oh, yeah,
team?
absolutely, but that's not to say that they're not a competitive team. How they stand right now, they're 3 and older, so they're mature dogs looking for a great experience, and Kelly's an awesome musher to take them out there.
Well, it's got to be exciting to see him going down. Maybe a little pangs of jealousy, though, wishing you were still out on the trail.
A little bit, but, I've been happy to take a year off and kind of reset and be excited. I'm getting excited, though, for next year and beyond.
And now we've got Ali Zirkle coming to the line. I think everybody knows what she's capable of. Number of second-place finishes. Ali was actually my pick this year to win it just because I wanted to go with somebody that is consistent, somebody that's always up towards the front. We spoke to her earlier this morning, and let's hear what she had to say ahead of the race.
Northern route is good, but I guess I'm not really thinking that far ahead yet. Like, really, I was listening to the answer of another musher, and they were like, oh man, I go 50 miles at a time. And I was like, well, I think I go a little farther than 50 miles at a time. But we really do. We chunk it up so much so that it's an attainable goal. So the fact it's a northern route, and we leave Ophir and we go to the north instead of out to the west, I always loved the northern route better.
What's that? Did he pick has he got kind of a schedule? Or did you?
And Allie Zirkle getting ready to get out there. Dallas, you've competed directly against Allie before. So tell me, what makes her tough? What are you concerned about if you're racing against somebody of her ilk?
Yeah, Allie is a very serious contender, right? I love racing with Allie. She's my favorite person to be on the trail with out there. But she's a serious contender. She's going to run her race. She's going to run a smart race. She's going to set that team up to succeed as much as they can, and that's a dangerous musher as far as the competitor is concerned. So she's going to be a real contender this year.
When you're going against somebody like Allie, who is sort of always right there, always competitive, is it daunting at all that it's somebody that she's probably not going to make a lot of mistakes along the way?
And that's what I try to do as well, right? We try not to make mistakes, never make a fatal mistake, and I think that's what Allie does. She never makes a move. Generally, I should say, she almost never makes a move that takes her out of competition. She might make a small mistake and rebound, right? But she's very rare that she's going to make a move that ends her chance at being super competitive. So she is a steady, consistent musher. Second 3 years in a row, only 2 minutes and 22 seconds behind me. She had me scared that year for sure.
Bruce, when you watch somebody that's the kind of competitor that Allie is, or when you watch somebody dueling like Allie and Dallas have done, what do you take away from it? Is there an excitement when you see two great mushers that are having sort of a duel at the end of a race?
Totally. The last thing you really want to see is somebody 100 miles away, in the front. It's always fun to see that dynamic of real competition and every musher having to fine-tune every minute, every detail. Like Dallas said, no mistakes. That's your best thing, no mistakes, and that's a great dynamic.
Well, we've got Jeff Dieter coming up, another veteran out of Fairbanks. We did talk to him this summer, I believe, so let's hear from what Jeff had to say.
And our explanation is, these guys are descendants of wolves, and then they're descendants of the gold rush. And those are some pretty tough and wild times and wild animals. These dogs have been bred and have grown up to handle this climate. We're, of course, monitoring their health, their comfort. We do have certain dogs with special needs. We have a 13-year-old girl who will come in and out of our house this winter as it gets cold. But the majority of our dogs excel when it's cold.
What can you tell me, Dallas? Have you seen Jeff race? Do you know anything about what his team can do?
Jeff's going to be a fun one to watch this year. We see him really making his mark. Last year, Iditarod finishing 15th position. I think that's a statement. I'm going to be a contender here, right? We're now one of the names to consider. So I see this as a proofing year. Show us that you can do that again. Show us that you can take that excellent finish and move up a little bit more. And I think he's got the right structure to do that from.
Bruce, along those same lines, when do you guys start to take note of a musher as somebody that maybe is going to be able to continue moving up? Like, about what sort of finish or run does somebody have to put together for you to go, oh, okay, we see you now?
Well, I like to see him in some other races as well, like the Copper Basin 300 would be a good example, or the Cusco, and see their performance against the competitors they're going to see in the Iditarod. But really, for me, it's after they've kind of been in the top 10 twice. That's like you're knocking on the door.
That's your mark? Well, Here's a guy that's put together some great runs. Aaron Burmeister, we did talk to him this morning. Here's what Aaron had to say.
I spend from the end of March, end of Iditarod, until November, pretty much in Nome. And that's my home. I was born and raised in Nome. We have the kennel on the road system between November and Iditarod. For training season. That way we're on the road system, better access to the races, and getting dog food and the race diets and stuff that we need. So we've been training out of Nenana, and that's our winter home and kennel, and we've had lots of cold weather, we've had lots of snow, lots of wind, and all of what we're going to see on the trail. So I think not only just ourselves, but everybody in Alaska this year is prepared for this kind of conditions.
And Dallas, Aaron is a guy that the people in Nome, the folks in Nome, would love to see him get a victory.
Yes, they would.
Hometown boy. What has he done out there that's impressed you? Because he's had some great finishes before. He's been as high as 3. He's had a number of top 10 finishes. What makes him tough as a leader of a team?
Yeah, Aaron's he can definitely be a competitor in this race. He's definitely one to watch. He can do some longer hauls. He doesn't mind going at a little bit slower speed. I don't think you're going to see Aaron win this thing when it's a really fast race. I think you're going to see him do really well if it's a little bit slower race. So this might be a good year for him, right? He's not traditionally a speed team, but he's got a steady team. Usually runs a larger team late in the race. So that could be a ace in the hole there.
Well, and how could weather affect that? If we get a real snowy race, if that slows things down at all, do you think that that's an advantage for a team like that?
What it does to a team like that is it takes away the advantage that the other mushers had. If they're a speed team, they can't use their strength anymore. So that's a factor. Those teams may also be very accomplished in slower conditions. Right now, a lot of people are hoping or wishing that they had done a lot of training in deep snow. The ones that had those conditions all year are very happy to see these snowy conditions now.
And it looks like our next musher up is going to be the great Martin Boozer. Obviously, Martin is always, somebody that the fans love. He's a big personality. But talk about his team this year, maybe not necessarily going to be right at the front of the race.
Right. He wants to, he's proven himself. Can we say that?
Yeah, a little bit.
With the history. So for once, he's given the A team away, and he says, I don't want to be that competitive, but I want to run dogs and train them to be competitive dogs, and I think he just wants to enjoy the Iditarod Trail and take the pressure off.
We talked to Martin this morning, so let's hear what he had to say in relation to how he's getting ready for this race.
How do you mentally prepare knowing that these dogs are not the well-oiled machine that you're usually running?
Well, the breakfast cereal is not oatmeal, it's a bowl of patience. So you just gotta be the kindergarten teacher. You're not the high school or the professional coach anymore right now. I'm just the first grade or second grade or kindergarten teacher. That's what my wife did for most of her career. So I have a lot of pointers from her how to treat those babies along the trail and getting them experienced and set the bar high, but be ready to deal with just a little bit less.
You see, guys, journalists are an easy sell. Martin will always be high on my list because one year when he got the 7-course meal, he tossed me a little piece of steak off of there. And when you haven't had any real food for about 5 days, a little piece of steak is just a godsend.
So did he toss it to you like a dog?
Pretty much. You're just like, here, cicadas, there you go. So he's getting ready to come on down. But as we get ready to watch Martin come down the chute, we obviously got to look ahead because Mitch Seavey coming up right behind him. Dallas, you're not going to have as much information as anybody in the world about what your dad's team could be like this year. What do you know, and what can maybe you impart that is useful for the fans to know?
Sure. What I know about Mitch Seavey, the competitor here, is that this is a guy that's always landing in the top 10. Every 2004 to present, right, with the exception of 2011 where he had an injury and had to withdraw from the race, he's been in the top 10 every year. He always brings a top team to the race. Now, the question is, how well does he manage that dog team over the course of the race, right? I think he's going to have a strong team, and he's one that I'm maybe cheering for a little bit, But I feel like I know more about his team now than ever before. The communication lines have really opened up since we're not competing against each other, right? Before, there was no communications regarding the team.
No state secrets going back and forth. Obviously, and you don't want to give any of those secrets away, but traditionally, what has made the dogs that he raises so competitive?
I see different aspects that make mushers good. Some of them are just intuitive racers. Some of them can maintain excellent dog teams on the trail. Some of them can develop excellent teams over the course of the year. And some run fantastic kennels that produce excellent dogs. I think my dad has a lot of those early stages down really well. He runs a nice kennel, he trains a phenomenal team, and he runs a pretty dang good race.
Well, Mitch talked about exactly what his kennel is like and what makes them great. We talked to him earlier.
I think we've fine-tuned our training a little bit more. We have several young dogs that have worked into the team, top-level dogs, some replacements, I guess you'd say, from last year. And I think we've one more year, one more race behind us, and that much wiser.
So he obviously, you feel pretty good about the chances of any musher who's put together the string of success that Mitch has. When you look at this, you were talking about conditions earlier. how has he traditionally fared in different types of conditions?
You know, I would say that adverse trails haven't always been his strongest suit, but he has a powerful team. He has a powerful team, and I think they're going to do really well in softer snow conditions, right? If it's just settle in and march along, I would like to see his team be able to do that. In the past, he has had a trouble with the team driving too hard, trying to go too fast in those bad conditions. So we'll see. You know, I'm sitting here kind of hoping to see something amazing, but that's a nice-looking dog team that we see running by right now.
Well, you see him powering down 4th Avenue right there. A great set of dogs as they go down 4th Avenue. Bruce, tell me a little bit about when you do have a team that maybe wants to go a little too far. How do you reel those guys in a little bit if you feel like that's what you need to do at a moment?
Well, the simplicity is you can always get on the drag brake. Mushers have leaders that run at different speeds, so if you know your dogs, you know who to put up front, the governor of the team. And the other thing you can do, which Mitch has done, is haul dogs. Why be on the brake? I'll give a dog, put a little more weight in the sled, slow him down, and I think the combination of those three is how you utilize the speeds of the dogs. But those dogs up front really do set the pace. And again, I'll go back to every musher knows the skills of each dog. So you pick the dog that leads best in those conditions.
All right, well, we're going to go back out to Sean McGuire and see what he's got cooking for us. He's been tooling around this trail a little bit today.
Hey guys, sorry I am just in the middle of unpacking. I just arrived on Campbell Airstrip after an absolutely incredible ride. Thank you very much. Excuse me for a second. Yeah, this has been an absolutely unbelievable journey. It was perfect from start to finish. The snow was incredible and all the dogs look really good. Let's come and have a look at some of them. If Hag's able to come with me. You see the dogs, they're really happy, they're quiet, they're so excited when they were starting, but they've had a great run. They've got to exercise. Look how happy they are. I mean, this is what the sport of mushing is all about, getting dogs out, getting them running. They love the sport, they're born and bred to do it, and I got the best seat in the house. I got to sit there and got to watch them do what they do best, run across beautiful streets of Alaska, and it was incredible conditions. You know, you look at them now, they're getting their treats, they're eating, they're happy, they've done exactly what they're meant to do, and they've done a great job doing it. So we get to tell them, as you do after every run, how good they've been. You know, these dogs have been so good. Thank you so much, dogs. Thank you so much. It's been such a great experience, and one I'm absolutely never going to forget, and I hope you got to enjoy it as well. So back to you, Charlie.
For those that might not know it, Sean, who's one of our ace reporters, was a dog handler for a couple of years. That's actually why he came up to Alaska from Australia. So, you know, he's a guy that really enjoys this time of year as much as anybody. Moving on, we've got to look at Matthew Failer coming up, another veteran. He's somebody you guys talked about, top 15, maybe top 10 a couple times, and you get some attention. He's had a finish of 13. He's got a finish at 15, won at 18 last year. So maybe somebody who's just outside trying to really step up and break in.
Yeah, what I want to see is, another top 20 finish. Yeah, he's been 18th last year, 13th the year before. There's a little bit of variation. That's all right. Those are good, solid finishes. And two things important is I want to see not just where they finish, but how they finish. Is it a team that could have gotten there a little bit faster, or is it a team that was maxed out, right? I want to see people with good finishes in there.
And now we're going to hear from Matt, and he talked about how the Iditarod is like a vacation.
It's 9 days of the year that you don't have to worry about anything. You just go out there and you're traveling down the trail, competing at a high level, and rolling down the trail with your buddies. And I haven't seen the Northern Lights all year. Hopefully they'll be out on the trail. And it's competition. It's just, if you really like competing and animals, it doesn't get any better than that.
Second last year.
Yeah. So if you want to touch on that as far as up and coming.
So Matt is a guy that did well in the Cusco. You guys were just chatting about that as the soundbite was playing. So what do you know about him from those races that make you think he could be successful?
Well, watching Matt, the one thing is he has done super well at the Cusco. And you got to realize, for people that don't know this sport intently, Cusco's some of the best mushers in the world show up there. It's a tough field. And what I see is that he's really got 300 to 500 miles figured out. This is just my opinion, but he needs to fine-tune how to handle that last 500 miles. You know, and that's what makes Iditarod unique, is the distance that it is and the different conditions along the trail and the maintenance of the dogs.
Dallas, is there a thing that for mushers clicks into place at some point where you learn, oh, that's something that I'm going to have to take forward with me?
If you're doing your job as a musher to continue to improve as a musher, then you're analyzing every race and you're looking for your own weaknesses, and that takes a real honest, introspective look to say, what am I not good at? And be forgiving of yourself enough to honestly see your flaws so that you can improve and move on in that. But I'm always looking at other mushers. What do they do better than I do?
What was the hardest look you ever took where you said, like, I got to fix that?
You know, I think I benefited from being a wrestler for many years and, you know, getting good at just that analysis. There we go. That self-analysis and not judging yourself for it, but just saying, you know, I'm not good at that. I'm getting my tail kicked here, right? So it's made it very easy. But some of the best decisions I've made on the Iditarod is when I've recognized I'm not going to win this race. Forget about it. I got to back off, throw an extra 3-hour break in here between Eagle Island and Caltag. 2 days later, that move looked like it was brilliant. But what it was is honestly looking at your team and seeing what they need right now.
And right now, getting underway, it is Tom Nollmeyer, a veteran, coming down the chute. Bruce, do you know anything that the fans might need to know about somebody that's a little bit further down the list here, but somebody that's going to be out and trying to finish this race?
I think for mushers in this category, part of it is the hope of improving and learning and just being out on the trail. I don't think they don't put the pressure on themselves that they'll win. But
we're going to take a break. We'll be right back after this.
Hey, we're doing fan questions? Oh, groovy. Hi. Okay, ready? It depends on the trail when I'm out of a checkpoint, it takes a little bit longer because usually you do not have water. So when I pull off and I'm about to camp out, I kind of always ask the dogs, are you guys ready to camp out? And so they get pretty excited because that means straw and snacks and food and all that.
When is this going to air? I technically, secrets of the trade. Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm doing differently. So we have a requirement for snowshoes, and the size of the snowshoes is 150 some square inches. I've had these snowshoes for years. So I'm bringing along a second pair of snowshoes, small, that I can tramp around, make a path, get my dogs off the trail.
Well, my favorite mushers, last year was probably one of my favorite races because I got to hang out with all my favorites, which was Pete and Yor and Allie. Another one would be Richie. There's a lot of fun mushers to hang out with.
And we're back, and we got to look at Jesse Royer, who's going to be coming up here in just a second. Her team's about to come down consistently in that top 20. What does it mean and of a musher?
Dedication. The simple answer is it just takes dedication to train and be there, and Jessie last year was a great run for her.
We talked to her already, so let's hear from what she had to say.
There's some really good women mushers here in this race. I don't know the exact number, how many women total, but some of the women here are pretty good. I mean, you've got Allie and Michelle and Paige and myself and the Barringtons. So I think we're just as good as anybody, and it's really not, the musher is an athlete, but they are not the deciding factor. I mean, the dogs are the athletes. For the musher, it's much more about taking care of the dogs and really, really, really good dog care. And we're, that's musher dependent, whether it's a guy or a girl, it's how well you take care of your team.
We're welcoming Greg back in with us. Greg, it was nice to get you back here. Yeah. Dallas did a great job. Now we've got you back, and we got to talk a little bit about what Jesse was just referencing, that there are a lot of great female mushers. This is an egalitarian race. You can be whoever and come in and put together a great race if you have a good team and if you are a tough musher.
Yeah, and I think Bruce just stated it well. It's not about gender, it's about commitment.
Yeah.
And if you're committed, you can compete and you can do well in this event. But it's not just that simple, though, because it's a level of commitment that few of us understand.
Right.
You know, we're all good at our own trades, but their level of commitment's on a whole other level.
There's not a 9-to-5 job. No. It's about a 28-hour-a-day job.
Yeah.
It really is.
You're a dairy
little
farmer.
naps in between. That's about it. Well, after Jesse, we are going to see another female coming up, Millie Porslid, a rookie out of Denmark. And again, we're going worldwide with this.
And we both know her. Greg
Yes.
knows quite a bit about her. She's been involved in mushing promotion for quite a while.
And she's one of these people that has spent a lot of time on the back end of a dog sled, but in expeditions.
Right.
You know, going a mile or a mile and a half, or sometimes on the top end 2 miles an hour, going great distances. I don't know how many tens of thousands of miles she has traveled on an expedition on a dog team. This is her first competition in this race.
Bruce, you've probably seen a lot of handlers make that transition. What is it that takes somebody from, I want to get involved a little bit, to now I'm ready to go try and do this race?
Well, a handler is really like an apprentice, and they're learning like you would from a master. And if you can get into a kennel of like a Martin Boozer and learn from them, your skill level just goes up so much quicker than making those mistakes yourself. It's a great way to get into the sport. And I was talking to Martin at the start of last year's race, and he said, you know, one of the things he was most happy about is all of his handlers who've run the Iditarod made it to know him.
Well, that's an impressive mark, and says a lot about the way that Martin gets his guys ready. Moving on, we've got Michelle Phillips coming up into the chute, and we did talk to her, so let's hear what she has to say.
We're a real tight group. We're all, raised with family, and we just love each other, work together well as a team.
Besides yourself, who would you pick to win this year? You can also pick yourself. Pete Kaiser picked himself.
Cool. There's so many good mushers. I'd like to see Jessie Royer win.
Why?
She's a cool lady. She deserves it. Works hard for it.
One of the things I find really fascinating about the Iditarod is age. You've got people all the way from when Dallas won it at a pretty young age to you've got Lanier running at a much older. It's all over the place. What kind of toll does this race take on your body, and how do you prepare for it, especially if you're not exactly like in your mid-20s where you can just bounce back?
Yeah, but what the older mushers have is experience to fall back on. You got to remember, the dogs are the athletes. The mushers are the coaches, only they've got to be on the playing field too and taking the hits. So you pick up skill and learning, which helps you be a greater musher. I mean, we just had the Fur Rondy here, right?
Yeah.
Top 3 teams. One in their one at 61, second place in the 30s, third place 18. It doesn't matter in this sport. That's the great thing. Gender doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter. How good are you matters.
And how much effort, how much time you put in, and how do you
dedicated.
build that team. It's really exciting to see this whole group. Now moving into the chute at the moment is Jesse Holmes, another veteran. He's out of Nenana, and he's got 2 races under his belt, so that's exciting to see what he can do now in the third effort.
Your top 5 pick was...
Oh, Jesse. Yeah. That's somebody else talking in my ear. I'm sorry. But, yeah, Jesse Holmes. I like him. I know his first race as a rookie finished in 7th place. Had a rough race last year finishing in 27th place. But I think this is a kid, a dude, that learns quickly, learns easily. He's got a good number of dogs. He truly lives the lifestyle. He's with his dogs 365 days a year, building the relationship. The bond is there. I think Jesse's going to be a player. I think you take last year, that was an abomination. I don't think a 27th place finish is in his future again. I think he's a top 10 guy, and I think he could win it.
You know somebody's excited when they start to point in different directions.
And I will say, I think you have seen in him He's a guy that's put his whole life
Yes.
into this, and you've always
Commitment.
talked about the mushers who don't just do this to race, but it's their whole life. And that's an aspect of Jesse.
And we did hear from Jesse, so let's listen in and see what he has to say ahead of Iditarod 48.
I don't really keep track of what's going on TV. I think that's why they have me on TV. I don't own a TV or have electricity, so I'm kind of out of date on all that stuff. I'm living out in a remote place on the Denali Highway now, so I rarely even have cell phone service to be on Facebook.
What are you most looking forward to about this year's race?
I'm just looking forward to being at the starting line tomorrow. Once you're at the starting line, you got a world of adventure ahead of you, so I'm not trying to think about what place I'm going to be, what my strategy is. I just want to get going and be out there with my dogs and, you know, let all our hard training show at the finish line.
That was a big old smile on his face as he rolled right past us there. It's got to be an exciting time for any team, but I think it must be for the younger guys, for the guys that only run it a couple times, really fun this time of day.
Yeah, and as we watch your Olsen come to the line, a former champion, but the thing I would say to that is that what these mushers are putting on display here is much more than just their dog team. It is their genetic program. It is their training strategies. This is where they come to see if what they've done for the last 365 days is work, and how does it stand up against the very best in the world. You know, we can simply look at this from the outside, but when you really kind of dive into what the Iditarod is and how good these teams are, it's very, very complex.
Now, obviously, your past champion, we did speak to him this morning, so let's hear what Yor has to say ahead of his race.
It's been a good year. Everything has been going like normal, and so it's good.
Congratulations on your recent engagement. How has that added fuel to this year's race?
Thank you. It's just a lot of fun. I'm a happy guy, so.
Does a happy musher equal happy dogs?
Yep, for sure.
Okay.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! Everyone has a chance for glory as the tradition.
Now we're going to toss it out to Beth. She's about halfway down the chute. Let's see what she can tell us from 4th Avenue and how things are going.
I'll tell you, everything is going wonderfully well out here in downtown Anchorage. As you can see coming up right now, your Seth Olsen, of course, the 2018 champion, last year's runner-up, defeated by Bethel's Pete Kaiser by just 12 minutes. This year, however, sure to be a very exciting race. And he is making his way down with his mushers behind him. And lots of Norwegian flags, by the way, have popped up just in the last few minutes, in case you couldn't see that. But again, the crowd very energetic here in downtown Anchorage, very exciting. And down 4th Avenue, people as far as you can see still, as we are already 35 mushers through the musher list. But we're excited to be here. Going to see some of these other mushers that come through, and we'll be tossing it back to you.
Thanks, Beth. Bruce, when we talk about it's a lot like the conversation I had about Ali Zirkle. Model of consistency. You look at his efforts over the last number of years, doesn't even have a single finish outside of the top 10.
You know, that may actually be a record, how many top 10s he's had right off the bat. Would you agree with that?
I don't think anybody's compared to that. I think, you know, Doug Swingley won quicker, but I don't think that anybody's had top 7 finishes in their first 7 races.
Yeah.
I don't think that's ever happened.
And it's not over. We know that. Yeah. I mean, he's in this for the long haul.
Well, I mean, when you look at that list, at that 7, they're all in top 10, and you just go, well, he's going to be a threat every year. Like, if you put that stretch together, he's always going to be somebody that has a chance to be the first one down the front street.
What that tells me is that his success is far beyond 2 great lead dogs. That it's a genetic program that he's getting hits with every litter.
And I've seen him out on the trail racing, and believe me, races don't always go smooth for these guys. And I've seen things fall apart for him, and he figures out how to manage the team to stay competitive, and that's a real skill. when things don't go as planned and you've got to make a decision on the trail.
One of the best jobs of managing I've ever seen last year by Yor in his second place.
I agree, yeah.
Well, moving on, we've got our next musher getting ready to come down the chute here. Aaron Peck, another veteran, this one out of Canada. And Peck's got, he's been in this race before. He's finished this race before. Never finished inside the top 20, but he did have a 23rd place finish last year. You got to think somebody like that would like to maybe bump up that couple of spots, break into that top 20, and continue their improvement.
I raced against Aaron years ago in the Rocky Mountain Stage Race down in Wyoming, and he was a pretty good competitor there. He honed his skills kind of in those races, and he hasn't had the great success like Yor in the Iditarod, but he is definitely in this for the long run. Again, to take those little steps and move forward. He's a good musher.
Well, coming up next, we've got Ryan Reddington, and we're going to hear a little bit about the family Reddington, which is something I think everybody familiar with Iditarod knows, but let's go ahead and hear that sound.
How much does it mean to you to uphold your family's legacy as this race continues?
It is very important. It is, it's the Reddington life, and I hope one day that my kids here, Eve and TJ, will race in it one day too.
And as you can see, if you take a look at his races, Ryan he has a number of scratches in there, but he's got some top 20 finishes as well. So he's hit or miss a little bit on some of his efforts out on the trail. And obviously this year's a year he'd like to make it to Nome and like to finish halfway all right.
And look, he's 37 years old, which is not really young, not really old for an Iditarod musher. And Bruce talked a moment ago about patience. I think when Ryan Reddington learns some patience in the first 300 miles of this Iditarod, he's going to start to have more success. He's got great dogs. He's a great racer. We saw him win the Bear Grease for the second time earlier this January. So he's got the potential to win races. When he figures out where the break is, I think he's got a shot at the top 20 and beyond.
Just wants to go.
Yes, he does.
Because he has the dogs,
yes.
And that type of record shows you he's been gambling and doing big swings. Mitch Seavey once said, you need to tweak the little things and just figure the little adjustments. You're always gambling when you're doing big moves. And he's tried that, but great race down at the Bear Grease, yes. And won that race.
Well, give me an example of not whether it was his or not, but what would you consider the difference between a big move and just a little thing? Like how for fans that maybe don't understand what you guys are doing out there?
Well, a big move, the best example I can use of a big move that shocked things was when Martin Boozer ran all the way to Rome without a real break and then took his 24 hours there. That's a big, bold move to just try something completely off the books. And a little adjustment might be just in your feeding program, or instead of maybe doing 6-hour runs and 5-hour rests, maybe your dogs do better with 7-hour runs and 5-hour rests. Just little things, or how long you stay in one checkpoint, or do you blow through this checkpoint and rest out on the trail? Those are little fine-tuned adjustments.
And more from an elementary level, if you haven't trained on 70-mile runs, if you haven't done 70-mile runs in training, you shouldn't be doing 70-mile runs in a race.
Yeah. Trying to do something new in the middle of the Iditarod, maybe not the best place to implement
Nothing
that.
should be new in the Iditarod. From you don't run your dogs a different ways, you don't even wear new gloves on the race.
Well, we're going to go down into the chute. Patrick Enslow, sports director for Channel 2, is there. Patrick, what's going on?
Charlie, it's been great to have a front row seat to all these teams coming through. It's always great to kind of see the composure certain mushers have, and then others are rookies and it's their first time and they're a little, wide-eyed, just super excited. And then you have the fans, the Barrington sisters. I was standing down here and I about got run over by 10 or 15 people who were all eagerly following them. And obviously when the Seaveys, Lance Mackey, it's always fun to see who gets this big crowd reaction and then how some of the mushers kind of play off of it and they really get that crowd going. So it's been great to have a front row seat down here. Charlie?
Thanks, Patrick. And coming up, we've got a group. Oh, here we go. We've got Magnus Kaltenborn coming down 4th Avenue here. And going to be followed by Tom Frode Johansson, another rookie. This is one of our Norway folks. Greg, what can you tell us about this group that's over here?
Yeah, both of them are Kelton-born, grew up in Lillehammer, Norway, right? Lives in Whitehorse now, but there's a Norwegian contingent now, it seems like, every year in the Iditarod, and it's great. And Bruce and I were able to go to Norway earlier this month, or in February, and we covered a race there were 160 teams in it. Gives you an idea how important mushing is to that country.
Well, Tom, we spoke to Tom before the race, and he had some interesting thoughts on being a quote-unquote rookie.
I've done dog mushing since 1983-84, so I've done a lot of races back home. So I always dreamed to be here, and it's time to do it before I'm getting too old. That's so simple as that, you know.
Bruce, you said you guys spent some time that way. What can you tell us about these Norwegian mushers? What makes that contingent, tough?
Well, I think that some of the Norwegian mushers came to Alaska long ago. Like Roger Lagarde is a name that a lot of people know, and they started bringing the Alaska Husky breed back to Norway. They had an interest in sled dogs, and it's just a geographic region that's been really interested for a long time, and they've all improved their bloodlines, and they kept up on their knowledge of training and racing, had their own races, and then, of course, when Robert Sorley came over here, the door open.
Yeah.
And I talked to Tom Johannesson. He has a lot of experience in Norway, but this morning when I talked to him on the road down here, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm actually here, and it took so much work to get here. I'm exhausted getting the dogs here and everything, but it's a dream. Iditarod around the world is a dream to run for any musher.
And there he goes, right down 4th Avenue. Those dogs look like they're happy, moving pretty quickly, and great to see a team that's getting on the way there. And we're going to keep this going because we've got yet another Norwegian musher coming up here.
Right, and Thomas, we first met him, Greg and I, out on the trail, actually on a snow machine, learning about the race. He drove the whole entire Iditarod trail to learn before he ever raced.
Well, we've got sound from Thomas, so let's hear from him now.
Well, at my place, we have about 9 feet now, so I'm pretty used to snow, and the dogs are used to going in snow, and the races in Norway are a little rougher, actually, so we are more used to bad trails. So it's good.
What are you most nervous for about this year's race?
Well, I would like to not meet a moose. That's, I like moose, but I don't like them in front of the dog sled. So I hope the moose will go off the trail when all the snow machines start going. So that's actually the only thing I'm thinking about.
So no lack of Norwegians here today. We've got a pretty big group that's competing. And you mentioned it, the effort it takes to do everything to just get to the start line before you go out there and compete in the toughest race here. It's got to really exhaust you.
Well, yeah, and he ran a race that we were at in Norway, and so he's been racing, he's been training. It's a lot to get over here. That's an exhausting aspect. Thomas is in an interesting position to me in this race because he is a contender to win, but also he's got a lot of pressure on him because of the Norwegians to do really well.
And pressure always going to change how, for some guys, it really builds them up. For other guys, it can knock them down. We'll have to see how he deals with that.
There may be pressure on Thomas, but not like pressure on Leonard Seppala, another former Norwegian who was in Alaska as a musher. So keep that in mind. Seppala had pressure. These guys don't.
We're going to take a break here. We'll return with more from the 48th edition of the Iditarod.
Hi, I'm Greg Heister, and we are getting close to the start of another Iditarod sled dog race. And I just wanted to take a few moments to say hello, number one, and number two, to let you know that the Insider team will be again out on the trail in full force this year, bringing you all of that great content that you have enjoyed for years now, with grand improvements. If you've been watching, then you know all about the Qrillpaws Arctic World Series. The Iditarod is the culminating race in that coverage, and the entire team that you saw in Minnesota, Norway, and Russia will be here with analysis and in-depth coverage that you enjoyed in all of those races. Our tracker has been updated with a new look, a new experience, new graphics and information. It's going to be easier for you to now follow your favorite team and mushers. Trust me, you're going to love it. So ladies and gentlemen, your investment today will allow these dogs to keep running down the trail and to perpetuate their purpose for years to come. So please, become an insider today. I'm Greg Heister. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see each and every one of you out on the Iditarod Trail.
Just give it the whole.
Yeah. And we're back here at Iditarod 48, the 2020 Iditarod right now, and it's still the crowd. You look around, we've seen teams going out for a while. The crowds don't really seem to be dying down. Still a good group here.
No, it's going to be a party all day long. I think they had the running of the reindeer right after this event here, so Anchorage is alive and well. Trust me on that, even though it's snowing and it happens to be winter again in Alaska.
What can you do? Well, snow on an Iditarod day seems just par for the course.
It is. It's the way it should be.
All right, so who do we got coming out behind us here now? That looks like Big 41.
Yeah, right. It's Jessica Kleika.
So, guys, she's somebody that hasn't been towards the top of the leaderboard. What are you guys hoping to see from her this year?
Another solid run. I mean, 31st place as a rookie is a great first race. She's a vet tech. She knows all kinds about dogs. She grew up out in Bethel. She knows Pete and Richie Deal really well and has grown up in that family of mushers out there.
Well, yeah, getting just to the finish line in your first race, I feel, is a pretty big victory. Bruce, do you remember, whether you want to think about it as the Quest or the Iditarod, finishing your first 1,000-mile race, what that moment meant to you?
Well, because it's an unknown, can I even make it? And when you get that realization that I'm actually going to make it to the finish line, you're not even aware of it, but it's like a huge weight comes off your shoulders and the beginning of the reward, and then this painful thing comes in where you start thinking about next year and you realize you're really hooked.
Yeah.
But it's super rewarding. I think for most mushers, your first time crossing the finish line in any position is just such a reward that you've done all that work and had all those dreams, and you got to see that 1,000 miles of trail, Quest or Iditarod. But her being a veterinarian, she's really into the dog care. She's actually Pete Kaiser's veterinarian. She runs a practice back in Bethel and here in the valley, and that kind of gives her, I think, an added interest in seeing, perspective in this.
Well, we've got Zoya Denur coming up, and this is an interesting case here because she's run it since 08. She's got 2 finishes, a handful of scratches there, somebody that would like to see the finish line this year.
Yeah, give her credit. I mean, she's continuing to saw wood, right? 53rd in 08, 57th in 2017, and I know, Zoya's serious. I mean, she's got a lot of dogs. She spends a lot of time doing it, and we wish her well. We hope that she can find the finish line this year and to complete whatever it is that she's searching for in her long-distance career.
Well, and if you keep coming back to this race over and over and over, it just proves that you've got the bug. Like, mushing is something that you want to be doing. When you first got hit by it, when it first grabbed you, when did you know, like, okay, this is something I'm going to be doing for a while?
2x4 to the year, I think.
Actually, I would say it was after I was already racing, because my first race, the Yukon Quest, I was living up in northern Alaska in the Brooks Range, camping and doing 1,000-mile camping trips with dogs. And one winter, building my house at Denali, Jeff King said, hey, why don't you run the Quest with me? It's just a fast camping trip. And it was after getting a paycheck, I went, I'm going to do this again, and going, oh, now I'm really into this.
It sucked you in.
Yeah.
All right, well, coming up right behind Denur, we've got Monica Zappa, another veteran here. She's got a couple finishes in the 40s, got a finish in the 30s, so somebody that's got a little bit of improvement to look at there, and somebody that's going to be trying to get to that finish line as well.
And a lot of Osmar dogs.
And one of the things I would point out, for people looking from the outside is it's not just the position you finish in, it's also the time that it took. And like Monica got improved, got 38th last year, 11 days, 20 hours. And to be competitive in this race, it's a relative thing to how long the race takes. And nowadays, unless it's a super, super slow race, you've got to get up in that 10-day bracket to be in the top 20. So you're asking, how do you fine-tune? So you start trying to figure out, where did I waste time, so to speak, that would have been better spent on the trail. And for most people, that's in the checkpoint, sleeping in, and so that time factor for people looking at how I would like to do better next year, you've got to look at the time relative to the winner in that year.
And you look at the finishes. This is somebody that's a little bit further down the way with a 38th, 47th place finishes, but those times, if you go back a few years, suddenly they look a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, her time last year would have won many Iditarod.
Right. So it's always interesting to see how the sport has evolved over the course of the last 5, 10, 20, 30 years, because those times seem to keep getting shorter.
And they'll continue to get shorter.
Yeah.
But Monica's always fun to have out on the trail. She's always so brightly dressed that we know exactly right where she is.
Well, and here comes another competitor, somebody that I think that we should be paying attention to, Brent Sass. We'll get to him in just a moment, but he's a guy that he's been into the top 15. He had a top 13th finish in 2012, fallen off a little bit towards the 20s. We did hear from him today, and here's what he had to say.
What does it mean to you to be back at this iconic race?
It was, I needed the break, but it feels really good to be back and to go up against the best dog teams in the world. The dogs are definitely ready. And coming off the Quest, it's just fun to do back-to-back races. It's never enough. After you get done with one, you're always like, oh, I can't wait till next year. But when you do them both, you get just 3 weeks, and you get to go back out and do another one. So, yeah, I'm super excited to be back here, and really excited to be a part of the whole scene.
Importantly, it also is about dogs and the relationship he has with
Brent was talking about guys that have done both in the same year, both the Quest and the Iditarod. How tough is that? Not just on a team, but on a musher himself, to turn your body around and put yourself through that all over again.
It's tougher on the musher than it is on the dogs. At first, when that started happening, running both, we all thought that was crazy. The dogs couldn't really do both and be competitive. And the early mushers that did it, like Charlie Bolding and Sonny Linder and Timmy Osmar was another one. They saw that the dogs that ran the Quest did the best in the Iditarod, and then everybody went, huh. But for the musher, in a way, once you get the sleep back and you get into a sleep cycle, it's not that hard because you already have your trail skills down. You know how your cooker works. You know what clothing works. So it's really just like, I ran 1,000 miles. Now I'm going to take a little break, and I'm going to go right back out on the trail. And that almost makes it easier if you have the logistics figured out. The food drops is a huge thing. 2 races of food drops.
That preparation on the front end, really a lot of work.
A lot of work, and that can't be forgotten. But this guy just won the Yukon Quest, Brent Sass. Great musher.
No, he was moving that whole way. Now moving on behind us, we've got Larry Doherty, another veteran. He's got 3 races under his belt. So let's see what we're looking at. Again, mid-level finishes, but times that look pretty good. Somebody that maybe is going to be looking to improve a bit.
He is. I mean, he's a doctor in his real life, right? Really smart guy. And I always question this all the time. Every year when we read these bios, so-and-so educated, so-and-so a medical doctor, so-and-so a brain surgeon, an astrophysicist. What are you doing here? Like, if you have that sort of intelligence, you shouldn't be on the Iditarod Trail.
But it's that challenge, it's that call of the wild. It's that get out there and put yourself to the test kind of a thing. I mean, you could speak to it more as somebody who's physically gone out and done it. Oh, okay, you can.
It's just that aspect that it's so great to just be able to spend days and days and focus on your dogs and not the rest of the world, and to be out in that environment. Why are all of us in Alaska? It's a great place to be.
And here comes Larry down 4th Avenue. His team is about to take off. But yes, I think it's one of the great things about this race is you see people from all walks of life get bit by that Iditarod bug. Now we have Jeff King on the phone right now. We're going to go to him. Obviously, great to hear from Jeff. Jeff suffered through an injury recently. So, Jeff, what can you tell us?
Hi, yeah, I'm sitting in Providence Hospital watching you guys, watching the start. I'm doing fine, but I'd much rather be down there with you guys on that dog team coming up the street.
Yeah, it's going to be very odd, Mr. Jeff King, to not have you out on this trail. I think you've only missed one other, is the year that you retired and then came back. But we're certainly hope that your recovery is quick and that you're feeling better. And it is going to be very strange to not have you out here. But tell us about Sean Underwood, who's going to take your team to Nome for you.
You know, I first met Sean like 6 years ago, and some friends of mine sent him over to work, and I thought he was acting like a teenager, but I keep telling him he came to me a boy, and he's leaving a man. He's a great guy.
Jeff, what can you tell us about the team?
About the team? Well, I played fourth in the cup for that team. And, you know, I was only an hour behind Kaiser, so that's a really good dog team. But I told him to be careful, take it easy, and make sure he gets there.
Jeff, will you be watching any of the trackers, see how that team is doing, seeing how everybody else is doing since you're not in it this year?
Oh, I might glance at it once in a while.
He asked that question, not Greg or I.
Oh, it's really great to see you guys. I'm enjoying watching the start. I miss it very much, but I'm really proud to have Sean on the sled. Is that guy in the middle a rookie?
Yeah.
It's Charlie Sakaitis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's been out there a few times. But, Jeff, we certainly wish you a speedy recovery, and I'll just say it again, it's going to be odd. You're kind of the fabric, or kind of sewn into the fabric of this event. It's kind of weird not having you out here, but we certainly understand, and we hope that recovery is really quick.
All right, thank you very much, and you guys doing good job.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks a lot, Jeff King. Four-time champion.
Yeah, one
Jeff
of the legends.
King, one of the best to ever do it. Even when he hasn't won the race, he's always been right there. Somebody that really makes a big imprint on this race.
Yeah, you know, you only get to do this one time a year in your life, right? So to miss one when you've committed so much and so much energy, it's got to be a very difficult thing. But you know, and again, I think this is indicative of the fact that you can't have a really great kennel in this event without having a lot of people around that you trust. And people need to understand how much trust Jeff must have in Sean to allow him to take his dog team down this trail to Nome.
And for every kennel, it takes handlers and people, family supporting you and helping, sponsors. I mean, the Musher's on the sled, but behind them is a whole community.
Without that trust, it's a brutal decision.
Yeah. It
well,
is.
I mean, there's a lot of things that could go wrong between here and Nome. So you've got to trust somebody to at least know how to make the best decisions, how to take care of the dogs.
Most importantly, to care for the dogs in the way that Jeff has throughout his career. So,
great on dog care, and I'm sure Sean has been trained in that above all else. Yes.
Well, coming up behind us now, we've got Jeremy Keller, another veteran. Top level finish was 37th. Has a race that in that race he got there in just under 14 days. So somebody that's, you know, trying to probably improve in their third attempt at this race here, but he's got a big gap between his two races. 2007 he raced. 2019 he raced. So a little bit of a different story.
Yeah, and again, I will go back to you have the opportunity to then review your race and say, where did that extra time go versus the front teams in that particular year? Because it could be a slow race and everybody, is closer together. But when somebody is 4 days ahead of you, there's probably some places you could shave off some time.
Some sleep.
A little
less sleep. Let's say it the way it is. To shave off some sleep.
Well, let's talk about the sleep portion of this race. How much does that take a toll on the musher, trying to get both their teams enough rest, get on, but you getting enough rest?
Sleep deprivation is a major factor of long-distance racing. It fogs your brain. It messes with your emotions. You can think things are bad when they aren't. Your emotions are just on a roller coaster. And there are some people that can handle sleep deprivation and others that just can't. And I think we would all agree there are people that are great dog people, but they're never going to be great long-distance mushers because they just can't handle the sleep deprivation. And it's just an aspect of this particular event.
One of those things that separates the people contending for the front, maybe some of those people that are close but can't get over the hump.
It's one of the many hundreds of factors that you need to be good at to be truly competitive in this event. Reminder to everyone out there, get over to Iditarod.com, buy those insider subscriptions, support the race, ensure that these teams continue to run to Nome for years and generations to come.
And like you were saying and asking Jeff about that tracker, I mean, that is a great element. You can see the speeds they're going. You can see when they camp out of checkpoints. I mean, that is a great aspect.
It's always fun to try to figure out when you're watching the tracker and you'll see, like, suddenly they'll be going slow. You're like, oh, maybe they're on a hill. They may have hit a hill there, or they're flying, and it's, it's
the other addicting. You end up waking up in the middle of the night, and I think I'll just see where they're at right now.
Well, and who can forget, I think it was the first year when they were just trying the trackers out. I think it was it Martin or somebody else put it on a plane?
Yeah, it was Martin.
And so suddenly it was like 300 miles an hour.
I think when Martin left Iditarod, the tracker was actually going back towards Ophir.
So, yeah, there's little hijinks in that first one. Now it's all pretty set and standard what these guys do, but that was one of those things that made me laugh pretty good.
We got rookie Riley Deich out of Fairbanks, Alaska, grew up in the state of Iowa. Moving down 4th Avenue. We're at bib number 48 already, ladies and gentlemen.
Moving right along here. Yeah.
10 to go.
And talk about that bib process. Does it matter where you draw? How much of a difference can that make?
Well, it makes a difference. It makes a difference in the early part of the trail. Some mushers feel like they would rather leave willow later in the day, so that it's cooler, and other mushers view it as I'd rather have a high number so I'm away from the other dogs and maybe avoiding some type of virus, and also the trail might not be as punched out. But again, it's that thing, the trail might set up better, or it might be punched out and more difficult. For this year's trail, I personally, leaving willow, would like to be one of ideally the top 10 teams out of there. But then you have to add in how many moose are going to greet those top 10 teams. So it's always this balancing act.
And you're taking different pieces of information and making the best educated guess. You're not going to know until you're out
and
there.
Then dealing with reality in the moment.
All right, well, coming up, bib number 49, it looks like.
Al
Ishins. And we got another veteran musher here, finished the race 3 times, ran at 4, looking for a 4th finish this year.
Yeah, and Al's been a lifelong Alaskan. I know I've talked to him before. He currently lives in Wasilla. He's partnered with the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation, does a lot of good work from a charity standpoint. He's always trying to get the message out there and using this platform to help others. He's a really cool guy. I like Al.
I think he also volunteered last year and worked as a race judge on the Iditarod to help out Mark Nordman and his crew.
Yeah, he's involved with the race a lot. Good guy to have out on the trail.
All right, we've got Quince Mountain, our next musher here. How's that for a name? Quince Mountain, a rookie out of Wisconsin. I've spent a little bit of time the last couple years, 32-year-old, so we're going to see what he's got going. Again, these rookies, it's got to be a daunting task to come in here and look at 1,000 miles of trail in front of you.
Yeah, it's got to be. And his partner, Blair Braverman, was a rookie a year ago, so as a kennel or as a partnership, they have that experience to draw from as Quince Mountain is about to begin his rookie year here in the Iditarod. And I think we've got some sound from Quince.
I mean, dogs are pulling you on a sled through the forest on flat ground. I mean, it turns adults into children, really. Just this kind of smooth, quiet ride through through this beautiful wilderness with dogs, and they're always enthusiastic, happy, ready to go. I mean, it's contagious. It's hard once you try it not to want it.
So great to see another rookie getting ready to get out on the trail. We've got a fair number of them this year, and that's something that's always exciting to get new blood on the trail.
Yeah, I think it's important, right, for any event or any activity that you want the future and you want the next generations coming along. So there's always got to be new blood in this. And that's how the education and the legacy of this kind of trickles down through generations. You know, Quince has learned a lot by reading books, by watching videos, things that weren't available so easily 30 years ago to those coming up then.
And that's the main thing. That didn't used to be available. You sat around the kitchen table and talked dogs, and now there is a lot of ways to learn.
Now, a lot of ways to learn, but you got to get out there to really experience it. We're going to take a break right now here from Iditarod 48.
The 2020 Iditarod Insider is better than ever with a new and improved GPS tracker interface. The new heads-up display allows you to see the standings of the race right on the GPS page. The GPS leaderboard has quick keys to let you see the info you want easily. The info button displays the musher's current race status. Click the bios and videos will drop down so you can see more about the musher plus a list of their latest videos. Drag the box around on the screen and you can have all of your favorite mushers displayed anywhere you want. The analytics icon will display the run and rest cycles for that musher. Add mushers to the display to compare teams. The locate musher icon will move the screen to center on that musher, then zoom in to see a detailed map. The favorites icon is a quick way to focus on the mushers you want to follow. The checkpoint tab now shows the checkpoint in the race order with their race mile and distance to the finish. The locator icon jumps your map to that checkpoint. You'll see current and elapsed race time displayed below the tab bar. Of course, the entire HUD can be collapsed by clicking on the tray. In the upper right corner are the new map tools. Choose the view you like best.
And pots.
All right, guys, we are back. Who do we got in the chute here? 51, I believe.
Yeah, Grayson Bruton.
So it is another rookie. And we've got a whole bunch of rookies at this section of the race. And as you're getting ready to take on that task, as you're getting ready to go out on the Iditarod for your first run, everybody's got a different situation. This is somebody running one of the B teams for Mitch Seavey.
Yeah, that's what I understand is he has Mitch's B team, which means he'll have a schedule and younger dogs that are just going to learn how to live on the trail. But what an opportunity to learn, like you were asking about.
And it's a little incredible. I've talked to guys before. By getting those dogs out early, they do really learn the trail. Like, they'll know where to go when they get into town the next time they go through.
They learn being away from home. They learn run rest cycles. And then they learn where the finish line is, and that's all important. And it also gives the opportunity to see if the dog has the mentality to be a race dog or not.
How do you judge the grit of a dog in that way?
There are dogs that actually don't do that well in training, and they get on a race and they just like, this is what I'm born to do. They just come to life. And I had dogs that would hardly tighten a tug line sometimes in training. They get on a race and they'd be great. And then you have other ones that they don't like to race, but they love to be a sled dog. So you have to figure that out.
Always a tricky
it's a balancing act. It's that being a coach.
All right, well, now we have Damon Ramaker, another rookie coming out. MK Burgess met him at the banquet, so we're going to get some sound from him.
Well, I got to say, today in the meeting, when we're sitting around with guys like Martin Boozer over here and Mitch Seavey, and we're doing roll call, and it's kind of a humbling experience as you're sitting next to some greats of this race, people that we've been watching race for many years. So pretty cool.
When are the nerves going to kick in?
Well, they come and they go. They come and they go, and there's times where you feel like, yeah, I'm ready for this, and then there's other times where you're like, oh man, there's no way I'm ready for this. So, yeah. So I'm sure I'm going to have nerves probably all the way up to Squetna, and then hopefully by then things will start settling in, and we'll find a rhythm, and life is going to be good.
Bruce, this really is a community, the dog mushing community. It seems like a lot of you guys know each other. As you're one of the new people kind of coming into that community, how do you ingratiate yourself with some of the more veteran guys, the legendary guys like a Martin Boozer or a Jeff King or a Lance Mackey? How does that process go?
There's no better way to bond with people than to be with them out on the trail and to share the adversities and the joys and the sunsets. And when you finish a race and you get to know them, you can kind of just look in another musher's eyes and go, I know. You know, it's this feeling of camaraderie because of what you've all gone through. And I don't mean to build this up to the level of combat and soldiers that have experienced that, but it's kind of the same thing.
It's a shared experience.
It's a shared experience. You had to dig down deep inside, and you share this brotherhood that other people never are going to get in on unless you've really gone through it.
There's no way to know it unless you did it.
Right.
All right, well, our next musher up is number 53, Dennis
Kananowitz.
There we go. Thanks for the assist there.
And another rookie.
Yeah, we've just got a nice little run here of first-timers, and as we were just talking about, it's just a different world getting into that first one than it is once you know what to expect out there. When you were going through your first race on the Iditarod, was there any specific spot that gave you a hard time that you learned from the next go-round?
Well, when you're a rookie, there are these places that Greg says is best, the places that are legendary, that you've heard that you have to go through. Everyone enjoys and fears the Bering Sea coast. You know you're not going to make it to Nome until you make it down the steps and make it through the Dazel Gorge. And you've seen epic footage of mushers in those places. You want to see them, but at the same time, you really don't. So, as a rookie, that's a lot of what's on your mind. It's just a mile at a time and take care of the dogs, but you're looking forward and dreading some of those as well.
It's a nervous excitement, maybe?
Yeah.
So if the truth be known, places like the Happy River Steps, the Dalzell Gorge, they really don't conjure up the fear or anxiety in the veterans, the really competitive teams like they do these mushers in the back. And what also needs to be pointed out, in a trail like they're going to see over the next several days with all this snow, it's these teams that are going to go down a trail that is wallowed out, where their brakes are not going to work well. They're going to have a hard time slowing down their teams. It's going to put a premium on being able to maneuver and drive the
balance. And drive that.
Well, moving on, we've got Robert Bunsen, a veteran, and he has put in some work in this race over the years, competed in an awful lot of them, starting back in 1995. So no stranger to being out on the trail, originally from New Mexico. So that he's somebody that's been out there, not a highly competitive front end racer, but somebody that's got a lot of finishes.
I think he just goes out, in all fairness, to do as best as he can in any given year, and just enjoys being out camping, running the dogs, and seeing all the different changes in the Alaska landscape, from the interior to the Yukon, the Alaska Range.
Well, Greg talked to him earlier this year about when he started training.
You know, many years ago, we didn't even have the options of four-wheelers, but we had snow. Now, now we do have these four-wheelers to get out there early and train the dogs, but it's just boring. The dogs don't like it. We don't like it. It's just not good.
How many races will this be for you now?
I think it's number 17. It is one of the more time-consuming avocations or sports that you'll ever run into, and it doesn't make any sense. But mushers know what I'm talking about.
Well, Robert is 66. That doesn't exactly make you a spring chicken in this event, but comparatively to Jim Lanier, who's coming up here, 79 years old, you know, to even attempt something like this is a story.
Well, it's Jim Lanier that got Bob Bunsen in mushing back in 1994, kind of helped him out with dogs, and so these two going to start out old friends and really know each other well. But, boy, I tell you what, Jim went through some adversity last fall with this upcoming Iditarod, or last summer, I guess it was. And, you know, like a real professional and a true gritty human, he did what he needed to do to get back on this trail and back in this event that he loves so much. I give Jim a lot of credit for that because, you know, you can sit and you can talk about the controversy, we can argue all day about it, but the fact of the matter is he was given here's a way back in, here's a plan.
And you know how I look at that?
You can come back, and Jim, to his credit, walked through the hoops.
The way I look at it is he did it as an Alaskan does. Here's a challenge. Yeah. Wow, I'll see if I can do this. You know, it's just that I really attribute that to a way a lot of people in Alaska live.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fret about this. This is what the weather's doing today, or this is the challenge in front of my life. And he went out to Cusco and finished that. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about age doesn't matter. It's how good of a dog person you are. And that's the critical thing. And 79 or 27, you don't care. Just go out there on the trail and do a good job.
It also proves that at 79 years old, the desire to be out there hasn't waned.
Yeah,
because that could have been his easy way. Okay, I'm done. I've done it. You know, let's just move on with life. But to Jim Lanier's credit and his all-white dog team, he's back out on the trail, and we're happy he's out there.
And I think it also speaks to how, for some people, how addictive this sport is, because you just can't give it up.
Well, that aspect is also it's so much fun to be out there. What are you going to do, stay home and watch movies, Netflix?
That's not what they're doing here. We're going to go ahead and toss it down to the street level. Beth Verge has more for us.
Well, you guys talked extensively just about the mix of people that are a part of this race. So wonderful to see these veterans out here trying to cement their legacies and the rookies who are coming out to prove themselves. But I also want to talk about the crowd that's here, an international crowd. Lots of people from, of course, the lower 48 and from around Alaska. But I want to introduce Rebecca, who is actually here. This is a vacation for you. So tell me about this. This is your first Iditarod, but what's your plan from here?
Well, from here I'm going to Willow tomorrow to see the restart, of course. And then I'll be taking a little puddle jumper flight to McGrath, and I'll be there all week to cheer everyone on, maybe help out a little. I'm really excited.
How are you feeling about getting to be at the World Arch? Because you're going to the end, right? Or are you going to a couple of the spots?
Unfortunately, I don't have enough vacation time for that.
Welcome to the club. How have you enjoyed, though, the ceremonial start here?
It's been a blast. I actually am a Meredith fan, and I got to meet her beforehand. Do you want me to show you the other side of my sign?
Sure, let's do it. Love it.
Go Meredith.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have the best travels and enjoy Alaska to the fullest. And, of course, don't forget about the keyword. The keyword is keyword. Go to KTU.com, and I'll toss it back to you.
Thank you, Beth. And coming up now, we've got Nils Hahn. Interesting when you look at his background here, because he ran the race from 2000 to 04, hasn't run it since. Now back in. You know, sometimes it just sucks you back to get another race in.
I talked to him at the vet check. He's really fired up to be back here. He says he's been training hard. He is from Nome, so he's racing home. And so I expect him to have a pretty confident race along the Bering Sea coast, whatever position he's in. So I think he just had other things to take care of in his life. He kept dogs that whole time. He ran some other races like the Kobuk 440 and the Kuskokwim 300. So he hasn't been out of dog racing. He's just been out of the Iditarod.
And let's face it, this is quite the undertaking. You just, sometimes you can't do it every year. It's a lot of effort.
Well, especially if you're coming from the bush of Alaska, that's a whole extra effort too. So, but I'm really interested in how Niels does out there with this race. I wish him well, and think he's got a nice outfit together.
And also, it should be pointed out, I don't mean to interrupt, but
go ahead.
He's one of us. Nils and Diane are the publishers of Alaska's oldest newspaper, the Nome Nugget, and also the Mushing magazine. So he's a journalist.
Always got to give a little tip of the cap to my journalist brethren out there. But you made a great point, and I've thought about this before. The guys that live in Nome, that get to, when they get there, they're just done. They're just home.
Yeah, they're home.
Go down the street, go hit my kitchen, cook up whatever we got there.
And the dogs outside of Nome know they're going.
Unless you're Katil Raton, you got another 1,500 miles up to Kaktovik to go.
A little bit further. All right, let's move on to one of our last two mushers here.
Last rookie.
And it's our last rookie, as you guys pointed out. It is...
Looks like Casey Muringer.
Casey Muringer. So it's Casey Muringer, and a lot of those guys that live out in Wasilla or live out in Willow, why does that seem to be such a conglomeration of different mushers? Why do they live out there?
Well, that's just a mushing mecca to go to.
It's where all the knowledge is.
Yes, the knowledge. Yeah. Well, let's hear what she had to say from the banquet this week.
Just a dream to fulfill. I grew up in Michigan, seeing the sled dog races back home, and when I was 7 years old in my first race, it took off when I was 9 years old, and it's all I've ever thought about, getting from the young age. And it's kind of like graduating college, going through school, and then so this is college graduation day, and we're going to join the big leagues and take my pups to Nome. It'll be their first time, my first time as well, and hopefully it's one of many.
She talks about joining the big leagues. What does that mean to you, Bruce?
Well, that one, just being in Iditarod is kind of big leagues. She's worked with Matt Failer and sees what it takes. Again, you said, why do they go there? That's, as Greg said, that's where the knowledge is. You learn from Matt Failer, learn about Iditarod, and then what that says to me is joining the big leagues is I'm going to be here for a while.
Yeah, going to be here for a while. Somebody that maybe wants to really make a run of this. And we've got our final musher here coming in, number 58, bib 58, Paige Drobny. We got Paige, and we did talk to Paige. We've got sound from her, so let's hear what they have to say.
Are you out to prove that saving the best for last will be, since you're the last one of that shoot, will be a winning strategy?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I only have to pass 56 teams. I can only go up from here, and we'll go from last to first, and it'll be fun.
Biology. From the University of Alaska Fairbanks in 2008.
And we are back, guys. We've got a time lapse that's going to be running after this, but talk about Paige a little bit here, because she's got all over the board here, but a 7th place finish in 2019, that is real work.
Yeah, it's a kennel coming of age. It's a genetic program that I think is starting to hit its stride. She had a great race last year on a trail that was not an easy one, and she did a great job managing her team when others didn't, and she got to Nome in tremendous condition.
She's actually one of my favorite mushers out here. She's got a great wit, sense of humor, and she's really, and her husband Cody are really dedicated to this. They just bought a place in Cantwell to move near the Denali Highway, and a place out of Denali Highway. And that's that thing of giving your whole life up. She's a fisheries biologist, but dedicated to dogs first and then money to support them second.
Well, and it seems like that's what you got to do to be competitive in this world of dog racing.
It is. You have to. It's a lifestyle. It's not just a sport. It's everything.
Well, there goes Paige right down the chute.
And guys, get over to Iditarod.com and get those insider subscriptions. Help out the race.
And we are going to go to a time lapse here as we head to break. So we'll be right back.
Hey, we're doing fan questions? Oh, groovy. Hi. Okay, ready? It depends on, so on the trail when I'm out of a checkpoint, it takes a little bit longer because usually you do not have water. So when I pull off and I'm about to camp out, I kind of always ask the dogs, are you guys ready to camp out? And so they get pretty excited because that means straw and snacks and food and all that.
When is this going to air? Technically, secrets of the trade. Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm doing differently. So we have a requirement for snowshoes, and the size of the snowshoes is 150 some square inches. I've had these snowshoes for years. So I'm bringing along a second pair of snowshoes, small, that I can tramp around, make a path, get my dogs off the trail.
Well, my favorite mushers, last year was probably one of my favorite races because I got to hang out with all my favorites, which was Pete and Yor and Allie. Another one would be Richie. There's a lot of fun mushers to hang out with.
Welcome back, everybody. You can hear it over the speakers right now. A little hobo Jim always makes me feel like I'm in the middle of the mood for some Iditarod.
Here we go.
Yeah, you can feel it. All the mushers are out on the trail now. We're going to be tossing it down to Patrick Henslow and hear from him.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, this will be my 4th year on the trail. I am excited. I'll be joined alongside Grant Robinson and Sean McGuire and plenty of other from our crew. Any chance you get to go out there, it's always an amazing opportunity. This is my first time on the northern route, and I'm really looking forward to it, and especially with this snow. I just like to see how it all plays out, and it's a sporting event unlike anything else, so I never take it for granted. I'm really excited to get out there. Charlie?
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick, and now we're going to go down to Beth for a final time. Here is our race day number 1 here on the Iditarod is starting to conclude. So, Beth, what do we have?
Well, I had the privilege of going out on the trail last year, an amazing experience. This year, I'm going to be the trail tracker for Channel 2 News right here on KTUU NBC, and I will be bringing you all of the updates from the trail 5, 6, and 10 o'clock on the weekdays. We're also going to bring you that special keyword as well that you'll want to look out for your chance to win 25,000 Alaska Air miles. But I'm just excited to see how this race plays out over the next 1,000 miles or so, and I know you guys are too.
Well, guys, it never seems to get old this first day, the ceremonial part of it. Everybody out here starting to clear out a bit as the mushers have gone down, but it feels like the Iditarod is back.
It is back.
It's back, and that's in Alaska, in the mushing community. This is New Year's, Mardi Gras, Christmas, and 4th of July all rolled into one for us here.
And for the fan base, I mean, they're all frothed up as well. I mean, this is the month of March. It's kind of like it's kind of a rite of passage to summer for me. Like, we cannot get to summer until we get through the Iditarod. So this is our last chance to enjoy the Arctic winter that we all love. But what a race that's setting up. Get over to Iditarod.com, become an insider.
Well, the snow is coming down. It's loosened up a little bit. The Iditarod is now getting underway. Tomorrow will be the official restart for us here downtown on 4th Avenue. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it, and have a great day.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
Hi, guys. Welcome back to Deshka Landing. Greg Heister here. I hope you enjoyed the rebroadcast of the 2020 ceremonial start in downtown Anchorage. We hope next year, 2022, that we're back down there celebrating the 50th annual Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race. Well, a lot coming your way later today. Of course, at 5 o'clock, we've got that great champions panel coming up with Doug Swingley, Martin Boozer, Jeff King, Dallas Seavey, and Mitch Seavey. That starts at 5 o'clock Alaska time. We're putting up interviews throughout the day that we've done within the last 24 hours and with many of the contenders and others that will be running this race all the way to Deshka Landing, or actually all the way to Flat, Iditarod, and then back here to Deshka Landing. So enjoy our coverage. We'll be here bright and early tomorrow morning. You'll start to see content posted around 9:30 Alaska time. The teams will leave the chute at 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And, of course, we'll be on with our live broadcast starting 30 minutes before that, or 1:30 Alaska time. So enjoy the day. Enjoy Iditarod 49. We're getting ready to get out on the trail.